So funny. You think that after 4 years of using the same two songs at the start of my stream, I would recognize when the song is about to end and know, oh, wait, I need to get ready. You think, and you think wrong. And also, I have a bunch of tabs open that are just not the ones. No, hold on. Where is it? There it is. Okay, there we go. Hi, welcome back. We literally just started this game yesterday, and we're back. We're back in the building again. I'm not sure. I think you're not allowed to like use swear words in your titles on Twitch, so whatever. But imagine there's a fucking in there. I'm back in a fucking building again. I just didn't put it in there because I'm you know. But yeah, hello, good evening. I hope you're all doing well. We are not very far on this little run for our life and trying to get off this ship. We are still on the ship. Oh my god, it says right there. I was like, it's really hard to see what save file I'm on. It literally says it right there. This is the second one out of 30. My bad. I can't read. It's a game about reading. I can't read, as usual. Local VTuber claims to love reading, but has not ever finished a book or properly seen what text says ever. Anyway, we are in our next escape room. We are here with Snake and Seven. I need to make sure I don't accidentally spoil anyone's names aside from their code names, because I definitely know a little more about this game than I would like. What? No. We are in what looks to be some kind of casino. Definitely some kind of casino. I have a feeling they reused some of these 3D models in Zero Time Dilemma. I just slightly changed it. You know what? Once we actually get around to Zero Time Dilemma, I need to check that again. There's a casino in Zero Time Dilemma. It's casino-like room as well. I'm like, I have a feeling they reused some of these assets, which is fine. I think you should reuse assets if you've already went through the trouble of making them once. I wish more games did that. Actually, it's like, okay, yeah, sure. The last guy shows up on a billboard in Somnium Files. Oh, true. True. Zero. Hold on. Something is wrong. There we go. I keep wondering why my microphone is in such a weird position. I'm assuming one of the cats managed to hit the arm, the microphone arm. That's why it's in such a weird position. Anyway, I think it's better now. This should be an improvement. Yeah. I mean, they... I really hope they're going to somehow bring the next Somnium Files around to the Zero Escape games. Why would they specifically use Seek a Way Out? And they're making it an escape game thingy on the moon? On the moon? In space? I don't know if it's on the moon. It's in space for sure. We will see. We will see. We're going to try and find a bunch of playing cards. Something on the counter looks like a card. Playing card. And another one right here. Playing card. Yes. 4 of spades. Thank you. Let's see. What else? Can we turn this on? It's firewood in the fireplace. Okay. At least this one isn't lit like the one in the first class cabin. But maybe we do need to burn something in this room. You know. In the other one we had to somehow get rid of the fire. Maybe in this one we need to turn something on. Is that an apple on his beanie, by the way? Feels like 15 years after the fact. of like after first playing this game, and I still realized new things. Is that an apple? Might be. It looks like an apple. Maybe that's why it feels a little chilly in here. Right, there we go. Cat is in my room. Parents were like, hey, have you seen one of the cats? Yes, in fact. He's under my bed. Never mind. He just got up because we searched for him. Of course. Okay, what's this thing? There's a weird looking thing floating in there. Okay. A weird looking thing floating in there. Okay. But there's another card here. Didn't think I'd find a card here? Well, should have thunk. Again, okay. God, I don't remember where all of the cards are. What's this thing? Anchor player. Oh, there's another one here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We're getting them. Maybe. Can I? Wait, can I use these? A very nice looking fireplace. Yeah, okay. What did these do? Ah! Aha! Wait, when it's too late to turn on, I heard something from the bottom of the fireplace. What's that? I heard something down there. Well, check it out. What was that? That's not the button I wanted. Jeez. Casino coins! Okay. Is there anything? No, I already got the cards over here. Look at that, someone left a bottle of booze here. Don't mind if I do? I do mind. Bruh. Oh, that hits the spot. Feels like my throat's burning. Damn, he really drank it. We don't even know how long it's been there. My brother in Christ. I don't even know what that was. Ay. Check out its stained glass. How beautiful. What? Huh? Stained glass is a colored piece of glass placed together in the frame. As I've said many times before, I need only touch it to know. I can at least discern the basic structure. They're like, wow, what? Blind man has actually somewhat lived and experienced things? No way. You can see in there's lighting fixtures though. Probably means the stained glass doesn't look outside. Oh, yeah, okay. Chandelier light from the ceiling. Thank you, Junpei. Okay, well, we haven't checked out any of these machines yet. Maybe there's something interesting here. This is one on the plate. It sure does. Seems to be a slot machine. There's a slot for coins on the upper left side of the face. Perhaps we should put the coins we have recently acquired in there. But I don't know. Wait, I didn't. Give me this again. Well, let me try that. Let me try to put a coin in there. What happened? I heard an odd noise. Well, to be honest, I don't know. I pressed some of the buttons and smacked the machine once or twice, but nothing happened. Oh, looks like the coin got stuck. Oh dear. Oh, well, okay. Maybe not. But there's 3 machines that look about the same, okay? What's this door? It's locked. It's locked, isn't it? For sure. Is there a keyhole? If there is, I can find it. Must be some way to unlock it. Let's look over. Yeah, sure. Seems the card is attached to the panel and attached very well, it seems. If you don't mind, what sort of card is this? It's a playing card. The Ace of Spades, in fact. I see. What am I missing? This place is like super amazing. What's this place for? Probably for playing Baccarat. Looks a little off though. Look at the middle of the table. There's something mounted on it, see? Suddenly Seven began to speak. I have not. I have not played, no. Junpei shook his head. He barely even heard of the game. Absolutely.
バカラってやつはちょっと変わっててな。バンカーとプレイヤー、どっちが勝つかを当てるゲームなんだ。
Okay.
じゃあそのバンカーとプレイヤーの勝敗はどうやって決まるのかっつうと、
As it usually goes in any card game.
それぞれの手札によって決まる。使われるのは言うまでもなくトランプのカードだ。その手札の合計数の下一桁。1の位が9に近い方が勝ち。相手よりも数が小さければ負けになる。
ああ。
以上、説明終わり。
Yeah, makes sense.
いや、本当はもっと細かいルールがたくさんあるんだがな。簡単に概略だけを言うと、今のような感じになる。カードの合計数の下一桁が9なら最強、0なら最弱。10の位は使わずに切り捨てられる。
How did I manage to turn it to auto? He hadn't been asked for it, but Seven's explanation, rushed though it had been, was helpful. Stop!
おかげでバカラの勝敗の決まり方についてとはいえ
Nope. We're not doing auto mode because that way I won't be able to actually read out the stuff that is not voiced.
このバカラテーブルに組み込まれた仕掛けらしきものとそのルールが関係あるかどうかはわからないけどね。
とりあえずいろいろと試してみるか。
Feeling more confident if only slightly, Junpei approached the Baccarat table. Aha, there's an 8 in there. So I need to make it something that also comes up to an 8, I'm assuming? Maybe? What do I have? I feel like you. Seems like such an old person thing. To be fair, a lot of card games seem like that. Yeah, I watched it at like double speed after it was over because they always do the directs when I'm still at work. We do get. I've never played a Kirby game. British old money kind of game. I don't know where Baccarat comes from. Wait. I don't know where it originated from. Maybe it is an old British thing. Where did... While the exact origin of Baccarat is unclear, most believe the game was first invented in the 1500s in Rome, Italy. Frankly, I do have to say with the Direct, the Nintendo Switch 2, it doesn't have anything on it immediately where I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, I absolutely need a console immediately when it drops. The only game that was shown in that Direct that is of any interest to me, and I'm just hoping and praying that it's going to release for the normal Switch still as well, is the Professor Layton game. It was there for like 2 seconds, so... But everything else, I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm not surprisingly enough, for someone who's owned pretty much every Nintendo console since the Game Boy. I'm not a big Nintendo mainline gamer. Like, sure, if someone if they make games and they bring it out on a Nintendo console, obviously I'm happy. If I have that console and can play it, but other than that, no. But yeah, I know. It's surprising that I'm not a Kirby gamer. I've not played Kirby games. I should. I do like Kirby. I have a bunch of Kirby plushies. He's very cute, but I've not played any of his games. Italy, Britain, potato, potato. Yes, it's almost the same thing. It's not like it's not like the English weren't everywhere, pretending they're the first to come up with everything anyway. I mean, I do think that there's going to be something on the Switch too at some point. I'm assuming they're going to make another Splatoon. And that one is going to be exclusively on the Switch too, so... But I've already bought both the Wii U and the Switch, specifically so I could play Splatoon. So, I'm gonna wait. Can I put cards down here? Are we really supposed to play Baccarat? It's a Baccarat table, what the hell else would we do? Stop worrying about it, it's real simple. What's your opponent's hand? Well, there's an 8 in a glass case. Alright, then that's your opponent's number. If that's the case, what 3 cards do we need to get that number? 3 cards. There are a couple of indentations with white lines around them, right? Those mean we gotta put down 3 cards. So, place 3 cards here and defeat the opponent's 8. That's all I gotta do, I guess. Yeah, I think so. Something tells me those aren't the only rules. Alright, let's give it a shot. Yeah. I'm assuming we're gonna need an 8 by actually using the classic rules we've been using the entire time. Splatoon dropping, you're getting from one, buying it anyway. Yeah, no, hopefully not. It's not like I have that much money. You can just drop on a random new console on a Wednesday, you know? The DS download play is crazy. The DS download play is crazy. Good, in a good sense, very good sense. Before I start, I better make sure I've got the rules straight. There are 3 empty indentations. I just gotta pick a card and play it. If we put them in the right spot, something ought to happen. Yeah, let's give this a try. Oh, okay, that makes it easier. How do I put them down? Ah. Alright, if I just put down these 3 cards. Open it for me. There we go. Great. You did it, Junpei. Think it's telling us to take the 8 card? Come on, let's grab it. But okay, I'm actually thinking of all the VTubers who wouldn't buy that. I mean, I understand the intention. But I feel like I definitely wouldn't get it. If I really wanted to video call with someone while I'm playing something on my TV, I have enough other options, right? Let's take this card. Like, I would use, I don't know, I would use Discord, I would use my phone, I would simply just call someone on a different device. I would not need to rely on my TV of all things. But the screen sharing idea is cool. Won't be going anywhere anytime soon. Oh, okay. Well, goodbye. We gained 1 card and we lost 3. Okay. Maybe one of the other slot machines is going to work. I only tried the first one, so maybe the middle one. What about this one? Let's drop this coin in the coin slot. Come on, you little bastards. I only need 1 of you. Ah! Would you look at that? Okay, I don't remember. Huh? Okay, not what I needed. What did I need? Huh? Haha! Only that could happen in real life. No, I mean, I understand why they would make it. Absolutely, and I do think it's a cool idea, definitely. It's just me personally, I'm probably not going to use it because I have other ways to chat with people, but I think it's great. I just really hope that the chat feature is going to stay going to be something that really only works with people on your friend list and not just random online chatting. I'm very glad that something like Splatoon does not have like a proximity voice chat with random people. I really hope that's just going to be something that you can use with your friends and no one else. How it really sounds in the end, for sure. Oh, you're going to make it so you can only hear the voice and there's noise cancelling on it? Mm-hmm. And the background noise is going to be muted or like dampened? Mm-hmm. I've had my fair share of microphones who would just not actually get my voice properly because they think I'm also part of the background. So yeah, no, absolutely. Just because it's not useful for me doesn't mean it's not useful overall. I never said that. I am definitely interested in what the hell that mouse thing is going to be about though. What do you mean I can use the Joy-Con like a mouse? Like, what? But still, I'm just gonna wait, see what everyone else says. Also, 5th of June, I think, is like literally is that a Friday or Thursday? It's like one day before the Dokumi. So, I don't know. There's probably going to be people running around Dokumi with the new Switch. That's gonna be interesting. And I think I hear something unlocking in there. Impressive, Junpei. It would appear to be unlocked now. There's something akin to a drawer on the bottom part of this machine, yes? That is a pickup drawer for the dividend. Probably the lock for the drawer got unlocked. Please open it if you would. I would love to. Aha! Not the card and a key. What is it? Is there something in there? Yeah, playing card. And this... a key with the Venus symbol on it. Excellent, Junpei. Now we will be able to open the gate. We just need to figure out how to get out of this room. Correct. Come on, Junpei, hurry up. And he's off. There was a playing card and a Venus key. Better put the key in my pocket for later. As for the card... a number 2, okay. During the video noise cancelling, so I decided not to use it. But yeah, a lot of noise cancelling I'm very about. Like, either if I have it on, my microphone will have trouble actually picking me up, and if I don't have it on, you can hear everything in the back. Like, I'm not looking forward to summer when it's so hot that I need to open the window again and there's trains coming by the entire time, but it is what it is. Like, it's either one or the other. I can't have both. Cards do I have now? 2, 3, 4, and 8. Wait, I have an 8. The ace should count as a 1, no? So if I just put the 8 in here, so we need to put a playing card in here. Let's give it a shot. Aha! Alright, it opened up. Seems to have another device to contend with, yes? There are 3 slots in this one. Well, I mean, I literally only have 3 cards, so it's not much of a choice, but also 2 plus 3 plus 4 does equal 9. 3 slots for cards. There's a 9 right below. Probably means we gotta make 9 with the 3 cards we put in the slots, right? Just like we did over the Baccarat table. Let's give it a shot. It's not like we have any more. 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I put all the cards we had left into the slots. What happens now? I did hear something from the exit. Excellent work, Junpei. Wonderful. Seems the exit is unlocked. Let's go. Is it? Is it really? Alright, let's go. It is! Yeah. You found it. Okay, to be fair, that was relatively quick. We probably could have made it out of this room last time as well, but it's alright. There's going to be a bunch of exposition, I think, for a while before we get to another escape room. Junpei and his companions went out of the casino into a large open room. A room, in fact, that they had been in once before. There was little to surprise them there. They already knew what the next step had to be. The iron gate still stood in place, locked tight, blocking the stairway, and right in the center of it. Exactly, which we just got a key for. DS game sharing Mario Kart. Yeah, exactly. It's honestly, the DS game sharing thing was so good. I vividly remember being in like a sleepover from one of the girls from my class, and like at that point, everyone had a DS. Be it the original DS or the DS Lite, everyone had it, right? Not everyone had Mario Kart. I, for one, didn't have Mario Kart. But we could all play Mario Kart together. I don't remember how many players you could have on the DS version, but we could all play it together because of the little game sharing thingy, and it was so much fun. Just like, okay, you just pop out your little DS and everyone connects, and we just drove a bunch of rounds in Mario Kart. It was super, super fun. So I'm glad they're bringing something like that back. Like the whole local sharing your games thingy. It's nice. Because I always think, okay, for those party games, like Mario Party, it's like, okay, but what if I actually don't have everyone come over? Or I don't have people living so close that they could come over. It was the same thing when I was like, okay, but is there online mode for that game? Like, can I play with my friends online? No, they need to be local. What do you mean they need to be local? Everyone needs a copy of the game. What do you mean? What else need to game card? Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that's gonna go. I am definitely going to get the Switch 2 at some point, obviously, but not immediately, and definitely not until they announce more games that are exclusively on the Switch 2 that I would need it to play. I already own 2 Switches. Well, one of them I gave to my parents, but technically, you know, I still have access to it anytime I want it. I do not need another one. I already have Switch 2. Well, use it then. Wasting no time, he pulled it out and shoved it into the keyhole. He turned it. The distinctive sound of metal on metal, he felt the lock click open. Oh yeah. Junpei grabbed the handle on the left side and Seven took the handle on the right. On Junpei's signal, they both pushed and the gate creaked open. Nyahaha!
どうやら開いたようだね。これで下のデッキ C デッキに降りられるというわけだ。
ニルス、大丈夫か階段。
バカにしないでくれ。後ろ向きに走ったって転びはしないよ。
よし、それじゃ行くぞ、野郎ども。
Seven's words, they leapt onto the stairs and dropped quickly down them. In no time at all, they found themselves on C deck.
C デッキか。
Oh, no water here at least.
異常はなさそうだな。
念のため、このままもう一つ下のフロアも確かめてみよう。
When he reached the water, he called back up to Snake and Seven.
やっぱりか。D デッキは完全に水没しちまってるんだ。
あの大階段の下と同じだな。
The surface of the water below them was flat like a mirror.
水位がさほど変わっていないのが唯一の救いだな。
それじゃ C デッキの方に戻ろうか。
You do not want to touch still water like this, by the way. Not good.
さてと、ここには何があるんだ?
Probably more rooms. I'm assuming. They began searching around and taking stock of what was on C deck.
まずはエレベーターが2機だな。上のフロアにあったのと同じものだろう。
扉の間にカードリーダーが設置されてるぞ。ってまたこの妙なマークか。
これはヤシロのマークだな。
あ？
メスのマークに悪魔みたいな角が生えてるだろ。だから
Bruh. For a second I was like, wait, he actually knows one? No, he's just making fun.
なるほど、確かにそうに違いねえ。うまいこと言いやがるな、この坊主。
Seven tousled Junpei's hair and what he'd likely thought. Excuse me? Was machst du da? Was machst du da? Hm? Mau? Lü? Mau? Wo ist denn? Was ist los? Ich geh wieder hin. Hätte ich aufstehen brauchen. Hm? Okay, I don't know. I guess there's something maybe on the carpet. I'm not seeing anything. I am unsure. It looks like he's seeing something on the carpet, but I don't know what it is. Also, thank you for inviting me into bed. Seven tousled Junpei's hair in what he likely thought to be a friendly manner. Junpei feared his neck might break, even though it was clear Seven had kept his strength in check.
痛い。撫でるならもっと優しくしてくれ。首が折れる。
何言ってんだ。人間の体ってのはそんなに嫌なもんじゃねえや。かえって丈夫になるかもしれんぞ。
こいつも悪魔だったか。
Thankfully, Snake interrupted. After Junpei's observation, he'd gone over to examine the card reader.
これは彗星のマークだよ。
As I keep saying, if anyone here had watched Sailor Moon, they would know.
角のように見えるのはヘルメスの杖の翼を模したものだ。
ヘルメス、ヘル。地獄の。
She beats you with the staff until you die and go to heaven. I'm not sure you're going to go to heaven, Junpei, if you keep talking like that about someone who can't even hear you.
やっぱりヤシロのマークじゃないか。
Seven shook Junpei's head even more vigorously, and the younger man began to feel as though his brain was being jostled about inside of his skull. Junpei's stomach began churning uncomfortably. Please don't.
とにかくこの装置を何とかしない限りエレベーターは動きそうにないね。
つまり彗星のマークが記されたカードキーが必要ってことだな。
多分そういうことだと思う。
Can churn comfortably. True? I don't think that is something that can actually happen, I will say.
しょうがねえ。エレベーターは諦めるか。こっちの左の通路はどうだ？
That's a lot of rooms.
扉だらけじゃないか。
There were a great many doors lining both sides of the hallway. They seemed to stretch on forever, and all three men suddenly felt very small.
おいおい、こんなもんいちいち調べてる時間なんてないぜ。
Well, you can check if they're even open. I'm assuming most of them are going to be locked anyway.
とりあえずここは後回しだ。その前に反対側を調べてみよう。来た道を引き返すぞ。
To the right of the stairs, another hallway stretched out, reaching deep into the bowels of the ship.
今度は右側に行ってみるか。
After a few moments of moving briskly down the hallway, they emerged into an area roughly the same size and shape as the one at the top of the stairs. On the left side of the room were 4 French
こ
doors.
こも扉か。まあ4枚だけならさっきよりははるかにマシだが。
開けてみよう。そこの一番近いところから行くぞ。
ああ、わかった。
Junpei nodded and grabbed the one closest to him. He gave it a small tug and felt it move.
鍵はかかってないな。
Thrilled to have found another unlocked door, he threw it open. Oh, it opens this way, okay. Junpei didn't know what to make of what he saw.
No.
Ah, this one. I remember. Thank you for the follow. Come in. He simply stood unable to speak. Seven's eyes opened wide and his mouth gaped. After a few long moments, Seven at last managed to speak.
おい、ここは一体何なんだ、このだだっ広い空間は。
What I still don't understand about this is like there's clearly so many bed frames there. I would not count this room as empty. Like clearly there's something in the way pretty much everywhere. A massive room stretched out in front of them, more a cavern than a room. Its vastness was oppressive, and it bore down on Seven and Junpei. It was not empty, however. The entire room was filled with lines upon lines of beds. They were simple things, little more than pipe and thin mattresses.
そこら中ベッドだらけだな。
ここは病室かな。
Funny to switch to also be a strategy game console. I mean, they are definitely putting a bunch of better specs in there. I wouldn't be surprised.
この刺激臭は消毒液の匂いだね。
多分そうなんだろうな。広間の中央に薬品やら医療器具の置かれた棚がある。
いや、それよりも奥の壁にあるあの4枚の扉。
Three of them have numbers on them. Three of them were emblazoned with large single-digit numbers made with thick red paint.
左端の扉には3。一つ飛ばして左から3番目の扉には7。そして一番右側の扉には8。間違いない。ナンバリングドアだ。
Sure.
なあ、3と7の間の扉にだけ何も書かれていないみたいだが、こいつは一体何を意味してるんだ？
考えてもわかんねえ。今はとにかく扉を調べてみよ
ああ、そうだな。
The three of them threaded their way through the bed. Oh my god, that's a lot of The three of them threaded their way through the beds toward the back of the room. Help me. Upon reaching them, they proceed to investigate each door in turn, but to no avail. They're all locked. Well, the number of doors being locked
う。
makes
やっ
sense,
ぱりダメ
obviously.
か。
But the one that doesn't have any number on it? You know what would be funny? If you could use the Joy-Con on a computer. Like, okay, there's a mouse feature, let's use it.
そりゃそうだよ。簡単に開いたりしたらノナリーゲームが成立しなくなってしまう。レッドで認証しない限りナンバリングドアは。
おい、ちょっと待て。
Suddenly Seven spoke up, interrupting
見
Snake.
ろよ。レッドの表示板のところ、サインが出てねえ。
サイン？
ほら、大階段のところのレッドには出てただろ。
It said vacant.
誰も入ってねえ時にはベイケントってよ。
ああ、そういえば確かに。
だが今は。
何も表示されてないな。
Maybe it's not active.
だろ。行かれちまってんのか。
試してみよ
無反応だな。
Junpei and the others put their hands on a panel, but nothing happened. The red refused to change. They tried pulling the lever and still nothing. As they soon discovered, it wasn't only the red on door 8 that seemed to be malfunctioning.
う。7の扉のレッドも3の扉のレッドもか。
全部同じように機能していないとはね。
こいつは一体どういうことだよ。
やっぱりぶっ壊れてるんだろ。ゼロの野郎、こんなところで手を抜きやがって。
そんな。ここまで用意周到に準備してきたゼロがこんな大事なところでミスを犯したっていうのか？
だってそうとしか考えられねえだろうが。動かねえもん動かねえんだしよ。
While Junpei and Seven talked, Snake busied himself with examining the red. After a time, he lowered his hands and spoke.
どうやら基板が抜き取られてるみたいだね。
基板？
そうだ。レッドの下のところを覗いてごらん。
下のところを？
Junpei obliged and bent over to look at the underside of the device.
ああ、なんか細長い スリットというか、スロットというか、とにかく電子部品を差し込むためのものだってのは間違いなさそうだ。
他の2台のレッドも同じだ。何かが抜き取られたような形跡があった。
なるほど。基盤がないからレッドは動かないのか。
だと思う。
だが、なんでだ？誰が、いつ、何のために基盤を抜き取ったんだろ
さあ、そんなことを僕に聞かれても。
Because you know a lot of things? Just then, they heard the sound of a door opening.
う。なんだ？
Three of them turned and saw Akane. Oh no, Junpei thought it's...
紫!
Hey! She stopped short, surprised to see them, and was very nearly bowled over by the rest of her companions who were coming through the door behind her.
一宮、サンタ、四つ葉、ヤシロ。
5人ともここに来たのか。
Would you look at that? Everyone survived the rooms. Junpei and Seven were, for the moment, at a loss for words.
どうしてお前らが。
こんなところに。
それはこっちが聞きたいぜ。
ではお互い情報交換といこうか。
After a moment of silence and surprise, everyone suddenly began to talk, desperate to exchange information. They talked about the rooms they'd been through and how they ended up in the same place. Of course, none of it was very useful information, but that hardly mattered. They were happy to simply see one another again. Although the level of cheer varied greatly from person to person, each one of them was wearing some manner of smile. Almost as though they had already forgotten about the death of the ninth man. No, thought Junpei, perhaps that wasn't it. Perhaps thoughts of his death were what drove them to smile at one another. Not in a morbid or hateful way, no, the ninth man had died. But they were still alive, and that was something to be happy about. A sort of simple, uncomplicated joy, Junpei thought, the joy of being alive. Still alive. He felt sorry for the ninth man, but more than anything, Junpei was just happy to be alive. Which is fair. In a game like this, I think it's fair to say you can be happy for still being alive. With that, Junpei finished his own explanation.
それにしても弱りましたね。レッドが動かなければこの先には進めないわけで。
あっちの直線通路の方はどうだろう。どこか先に進めそうなところがあるかもしれない。
いや、なかったよ。我々5人でざっと調べてみたんだ。病室なら腐るほどあったが、他には何も。
病室？ってことは、あの大量に並んでた扉は病室の扉ってことか？
そうだ。この大病室とは違って個室のな。
Oh.
あとは通路の突き当たりのところにドアがあったけど、鍵がかかってて。
鍵穴のところには例の星のマークが刻まれてたな。
木星のマークでした。
木星か。
一体何の意味があるのかしら。
Confusion seemed to be the
何
consensus.
の意味といえば、この大病室もそうだな。一体何なんだここは。この船は客船じゃなかったのか？
No one, not even Snake, appeared ready to offer an answer until Seven unexpectedly spoke up.
この船はおそらく病院船なんだろう。名前は多分ギガント。
ギガント？
Junpei looked at Seven, shocked both by his knowledge and the apparent identity of the prison. He was not the only one. Local amnesiac apparently knows a lot about ships. Or at least one specific ship. We'll find out.
何なのよ、そのギガントって。
Seven nodded to Lotus and began to speak.
ギガントっていうのはな、20世紀初頭に建造されたタイタニック号の姉妹船でな、正式名称はギガンティック号という。タイタニック号には外観も内装もそっくりな3隻の姉妹船があった。ギガント号はそのうちの1隻ってわけだ。当初はタイタニック号と同じく 客船として運用される予定だったんだが、浸水後間もなく第一次世界大戦が勃発した。その影響によってイギリス海軍に接収され、病院船
Can't be
へと
funny.
改装
Thank
され
you.
たそうだ。その後ギガント号はエーゲ海においてドイツ軍の敷設した機雷に接触。損傷を受けながらもどうにか付近の浅瀬に乗り上げ、沈没は免れたらしい。それからギガント号はどうなったのか。一説によるとイギリスの大富豪ゴルダイン卿なる人物がその船を買い取ったのだと言われている。なんでもゴルダイン卿はタイタニック号の生存者のうちの一人で、ありとあらゆる遺品を収集していたのだとか。その収集癖が高じて彼はいつしか
I don't
タイ
think
タ
you
ニック
can
号そのものを欲するようになった。
get something like that.
しかしそれは叶わぬ夢。タイタニック号は海の底だ。そこで彼はタイタニック号と瓜二つの姉妹船
そのゴルダイン卿とかいうやつが買い取ったのがこの船だっていうのか。
そうだ。少なくとも俺はそう思ってる。
そんなバカな。1世紀も前に作られた船が現存してるわけがない。
まあまあ、話を聞こうじゃないの。
Because he really likes Titanic the movie? I wouldn't know. I'm assuming he got the question before, definitely, when talking about this game, but I couldn't tell you if he's ever answered it.
それで根拠は何なの？
根拠？
この船がギガント号だと思う根拠よ。
それはお前、あれだ。この船はタイタニック号と病院船2つの特徴を兼ね備えてる。
まさかそれだけの理由？
いや、まだある。
何よ？
それはその
Uh-huh. Simon looked around desperately, doing anything to avoid meeting Lotus's piercing stare. He scratched his head for a moment, then gave up. Finally, he opened his mouth.
わからん。
Lotus sighed and shook her head.
記憶喪失。まだ治ってないのね。
すまんな。
Then, almost as if to save Seven from further embarrassment. Ah, the clock chimes. A bell began to ring from far away.
鐘の音か。
大階段にあったあの時計の音のようだな。
Jimmy counted each chime carefully.
10、11、12。12回か。
12時ですね。タイムリミットまであと6時間。
とにかく動こう。レッドの基盤を探しに行くんだ。
探すって言ったって、どこを探せばいいのよ。
Well, maybe by just fucking getting to it instead of complaining about how we're going to make it? Did you know action is a good idea to get something done?
この大病室の中はすでに調べた。
They had been examining the room as they
だが
talked.
基盤はどこにも見当たらなかった。
そうね。
すると残された場所は一つしかない。
一つ？
いや、一つじゃねえか。
あ？
ちょっと待ってよ。ここにある部屋を全部探せっていうの？
大病室に来る前にお前らが何部屋か調べたんだろ
It's like, I do think she's a good character. She definitely has her moments, but a lot of time she just gets on my nerves for the simple reason of there always has to be someone who's like, why would we do this? Oh, do we really have to do this? Instead of just doing it. Just get to it. You only have 6 hours left. What do you mean we really need to look through all of these rooms? Well, yeah, the sooner you get it done, the sooner you will hopefully be able to move on.
一人一部屋ずつ合計で5部屋だ。
Just saying.
じゃあ、全部マイナス5部屋だ。あとは8人で手分けして当たればなんとかなるだろう。
Oh, yeah.
一人につき6部屋ずつ調べりゃ48部屋は片付くことになる。
I mean, that's still a crazy amount of rooms, but maybe you don't even need to look through all of them. You know? Just try.
残りは48部屋なの？
Lotus did not seem excited by the prospect. Seven fidgeted nervously before responding.
知らん。
Maybe. After some discussion, the 8 of them decided which rooms to begin with and in what order they would go. Junpei was chosen to search the rooms on the starboard side, moving from fore to aft.
おのおの、担当するエリアと順序は理解したか？
おう。
Oh!
バッチリです。
They also determined when they would return to report their findings, the next time the clock sounded the time. When it did, they would meet back in a large central room full of bats.
時間は次の鐘の音が鳴るまでだ。集合場所は大病室でいいよな。
ああ、問題ない。
If, during the search, any of them were to locate the missing components, they were to yell for the others.
基盤を見つけたら、とりあえず声を上げて知らせればいいのよね。
時間までに見つかればいいんだけど。
If the strategy failed, they returned to discuss the options
ま
later.
あ、それだけ探しても見つからないのなら、別の対策を練った方がいいってことだね。
そういうこったな。
それじゃ、行くぞ。
The details decided, they left to begin searching. Out into the hallway they went, each to the rooms they'd been assigned. However, it's not going well. From far away, Junpei heard the bell ring. It did so only once. It was 1 a.m.
1時か。みんなのところに戻らないと。
He jogged through the entrance of the large hospital room to find 6 of the others already there.
Oh.
By only 6 of them, though. Ace, Santa, Clover, June, Seven, and Lotus. They had gathered in front of door number 8. Or perhaps, to be accurate, they had gathered in front of the red next to the door number 8.
あいつら、こんなとこに集まって何を？
I find it funny that we're always kind of the last one to arrive anywhere. Because it's like, I thought we would all meet up only when the bell starts. Was tust du da? When the bell starts ringing. But then for some reason, everyone else seems to have already met up again. Without us. So. One of them found the missing piece.
どうしたんだ？
It was June who answered him.
淳平くん、見てください。
She was pointing at the red. He pushed through the others until he stood in front of it. It's active! Immediately he knew what she had
ベ
meant.
イケント。空室だと？
Junpei sighed.
おいおい、基盤を見つけたのはどこのドイツだよ。見つけたら声を上げて知らせるって、そういう決まりだっただろ？
それが。
Junpei wondered why she was hesitating. The others looked as confused as June, but kept their mouths shut.
なんだよ。なんで黙ってるんだ？
They all knew something he didn't, and Junpei wasn't about to leave things that way. Finally, Lotus frowned and spoke.
それがね、わからないのよ。
わからない。
私がここに戻ってきた時にはすでにこの状態で、その時部屋の中には誰もいなかったの。つまり私が一番乗りだったってこと。なのに基盤が。
は？ちょっと見せてみろ。
Junpei looked at the bottom of the red again just to make sure. The slot that had been open on the bottom was now covered with metal.
確かに下に何か刺さってるな。
Dun dun dun!
他の2台は？
同じよ。
確かめてくる。
Junpei quickly examined the other 2 boxes.
ヤシロの言った通りか。
Satisfied that they were also repaired, but still very confused, she returned to the others.
なあ、念のため確認させてくれ。ここにいるみんなは全員心当たりがないんだよな。
Something. It would be funny if the reason that they, weren't repaired was just Zero thinking, oh god, wait, they actually made it through the other rooms way more quickly than I had hoped. And then Zero put them back in before anyone returned from, their 1 hour search the other rooms. I think that would be funny. I genuinely don't actually remember the reason why these rooms are the way they are. Anyway, so who knows?
Oh.
ないですね。
Ace and June nodded silently. Seven raised his hands as if to say, not me, and Santa just shrugged. Only Clover lowered her head and did nothing.
ちょっと待て。
That was when he noticed. You're missing one person.
ニルスはどこだ？
Junpei swept his eyes across the room a second time, but Snake was nowhere to be seen.
ってことは、ニルスが基盤を？
さあな、わからん。
直接聞いてみないことには何とも言えないわね。
それにしても遅えな、あの野郎。一体どこを突き歩いてんだ。
もしかして道に迷ってるんじゃないでしょうか。
ああ、その可能性は高いな。あいつは目が見えないわけで。
By using his feet? He's blind. It's not like he can't move. Clover raised her head.
そんなことありえないよ。
Suddenly she was
お
shouting.
兄ちゃんは確かに目が見えないけど、音を聞けば何だってわかるんだから。だから、道に迷うなんて、そんなこと、絶対に。
Clover had started to shake and the knuckles of her hands had gone white. She spun around, but before she did, Junpei noticed tears welling up in her eyes.
私、探してくる。
The words were barely out of her mouth when she began to run.
おい、待てよ！四つは待てって！
Junpei cried out to her, but he was too slow. She kept going, and before anyone else could react, she was gone.
行っちまった。
Well, duh.
参ったな。どうするか。
レッドは動くようになったけど。
二人を置いてはいけません。私たちも探しに行きましょう。
ったく、しょうがねえな。
基盤探しの後は人探しか。やれやれだぜ。
Don't be
と
fucking
にかく
rude.
行こう。ぐずぐずするな。タイムリミットまであと5時間を切ってるんだからな。
Junpei and the others nodded to one another and took off at a run. In front of the stairs that led to B deck, they decided to split
こ
up.
こからは手分けして探そ
はいよ。じゃあ俺はこっちを調べるぜ。
では、私は向こうへ行こう。
俺はあっちだな。
それじゃあまた後でね。
Soon only two of them were left. Those two were Junpei and June, who had been a few steps behind the
う。
others.
さあ、俺たちも探しに行こ
はい、行きましょう。でも、どこから探せばいいんでしょうか。
う。まずは。
We are actually going to go to the hallway with all the rooms.
あっちの直線通路の方に行ってみよ
わかりました。了解です。
They turned around and took off down the hallway to their left.
う。一宮か？
Ahead of them, farther down the hallway, they spotted
お
Ace.
い、ネルスどこだ？いたら返事をしてくれ。
What should Junpei do? We're gonna run to Ace.
行こう、紫。
With June and Tao, Junpei jumped up to Ace. Hearing their footsteps, he turned to greet them.
ああ、君たちか。ニルスは聞くまでもないか。その様子からするとまだ見つかっていないようだね。
ああ、そっちも同じみたいだな。
本当にどこに行っちゃったんでしょうね、ニルス。
四つ葉のためにも早く見つけてやらないとな。
そうですね。
June's face looked kinda
そ
enraptured.
れにしても四つ葉とニルスって本当に兄弟なのかな。
どうしてそう思うんだい？
How would you say that? The question seemed somehow odd to
ど
Junpei.
うしてって、そんなこと聞くまでもないだろう。二人は全く似てないじゃないか。
Ace looked at him for a moment and then spoke.
ああ、言われてみれば確かにそうだね。
Now that you mention it.
だがいろいろと似てない兄弟なんてこの世界には5万といるだろう。別に不思議なことでも何でもないさ。
Junpei wasn't sure why or even if he was seeing what he thought he was, but he could have sworn that Ace's face tightened as he spoke.
とにかく一刻も早くニルスを見つけ出さないと。時間はどんどん過ぎていく。無駄話をしている場合じゃないぞ。さあ、捜索再開だ。ここは私に任せて君たちは別の場所を頼む。
わかりました。純平くん、行きましょう。
At June's urging, they left. They found themselves back at the stairs, but Junpei's mind was in
いろ
turmoil.
いろと気になることはあったが、とりあえず考えるのは後回しだ。一宮の言った通り、まずはニルスを見つけないと。
Junpei did his best to clear his mind.
と、次に向かうべき場所は
Back to the large hospital room. Thank you, game.
大病室に戻ってみないか。
Good thing I've certainly never played this before.
わかりました。戻ってみましょう。
They turned and headed back toward the large hospital room.
あれ
On the way to the large hospital room, Junpei and June noticed Santa standing next to the number 3 door.
サンタ
Junpei paused. What should we do? Nothing. Junpei turned around and walked away from Santa.
どうせあいつと話したって有益な情報は得られないだろ
純平くん。
う。いや、なんでもない。行こう、紫。
Junpei took June and left the large hospital room. And now we're going to finish searching. They looked everywhere they could think of, but Snake was nowhere to be found.
これだけ探しても見つからないなんてね。
Lotus looked around at 6 frustrated faces and spoke.
このままニルスを探し続けても仕方がないわ。先に進みましょう。
Junpei couldn't disagree with what she was saying. Snake seemed to have completely disappeared. There was no point to wasting any more time. The others seemed to be having similar thoughts, but they stayed silent. Finally, Seven spoke.
やむをえんな。ヤシロの言った通りだ。ここにいる7人で先に進むしかねえだろう。だが問題が一つある。誰と誰が組んでどの扉に入るかだ。
Sure do.
そうね。そこで一つ。
She walked back and forth across the floor, her heels clicking against the wood. Finally, she stopped.
一人、犠牲になってもらう人間を決めない？
Excuse me?
犠牲？
そう、犠牲。みんなもう気づいてるんでしょ？全員。
I accidentally skipped that line. We can't all make it through those
4
doors.
人と3人のチームに分かれたら3人が脱落することになるし、5人と2人なら2人が取り残されることになるわ。でも3人と3人と1人だったら犠牲は1人で済むのよ。
Leaving behind 3 people with 2 teams of 4 and 3. She was right. It wasn't pleasant, but she was right. There wasn't any way that the numbers worked out. If one group was 4, the other group would always have a digital route that didn't match a door. When Seven spoke, his voice was strained.
その犠牲となる一人を決めようっていうのか。
ええ、そう。この状況においてはそれが最も道義的かつ理性的な選択だと思うの。他の6人が生き延びるためには1人に身を捧げてもらうしかないのよ。
そんなひどすぎます。
何がひどいっていうのよ。 ったら何？犠牲者は1人よりも2人、2人よりも3人の方がいいっていうわけ？
そんなことは言ってません。一人よりも0人の方がいいに決まってるじゃないですか。
だからそれは無理だって言ってるじゃないのよ。夢みたいなことばっかり言ってないで。
まあなあ、二人とも落ち着け。
It's not just up between Lotus and
とに
June.
かくヤシロが言わんとしていることは、最大多数の最大幸福を追求すべきだって、そういうことだよな。
その通り、民主主義の原理原則よ。だからそれにのっとって犠牲となる1名も投票で決めようと思うんだけど、どうかしら？
私は反対です。
あんたには聞いてないわ。黙ってて。
That's democracy, so we should put it up to a vote. I'm not asking you. Well, either you're asking everyone for the vote or you're not asking anyone for it. Okay, whatever you say, girl.
サンタはどう？
俺か？俺はまあ賛成かな。
はい、1票ね。私を加えて2票。セブンは？
もろ手を挙げて賛成ってわけにはいかねえが、まあ仕方ねえだろうな。このままじゃ全員が織田物になっちまうわけだ。
よくわかってるじゃない。これであと1票獲得すればこの法案は成立よ。四つ葉はどうかしら？
Clover had moved away from the group and was sitting on one of the beds. Her whole body drooped. Junpei didn't know if she'd even heard Lotus's proposal.
ねえ、四つ葉。
Lotus walked over to Clover and gently laid a hand on her shoulder.
あなたのお兄さんニルスは多分ナンバリングドアの向こう側にいるはずよ。これだけ探しても見つからなかったんだもの。そう思わない？
Clover slowly lifted her face.
一緒に探しに行きましょう。
Well, that's one way to get her on your side.
たった一人を犠牲にするだけでそれが可能になるの。だからね、賛成して。
Clover nodded once. Ah, come on.
これで決まりね。
Lotus spun around and walked toward Junpei.
さてと、それじゃあ早速だけど投票。
そんなものは必要ないよ。
Ace had barely spoken for Lotus's entire speech, and everyone jumped a little. 6 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. He didn't seem to notice or even care.
私がここに残る。それでいいだろう。
Dun dun dun!
一宮さん、何を言ってるんですか？そんなのダメです。ダメに決まってるでしょ。
June's voice shook and she looked around desperately for someone to agree with her. Ace simply looked at her.
紫君、君は何か勘違いしているようだね。私はここに残るとは言ったが、犠牲になるとは一言も言ってないんだよ。私は君たちを信じてるんだ。必ず戻ってきてくれるとね。
おいおいおいおい、何を寝ぼけたこと言ってるんだよお前は。ナンバリングドアは一方通行。入ることはできても出ることはできない。だから俺たち6人がこの先に進んじまったら
戻ってくることなんてできないか？
そうだ。
だがこの船から脱出したら話は別だろう。
なんだと？
私からのお願いだ。頼む。ぜひとも救助を連れて戻ってきてほしい。ゼロの言っていたタイムリミットが訪れるまで。
Ideally. Don't worry if you can't make it though.
無茶だ。無理に決まってる。
Finally, Junpei could hold his tongue no longer.
タイムリミットまで5時間を切ってるんだぞ。
Well, better get on with it then.
ここが洋上のどこに位置するかもわからないっていうのに、どうやって救助を連れて戻ってくるって言うんだ。
だったら君が私の代わりになってくれるとでも言うのかね。それとも紫君を置き去りにするか。
Ace's voice was dignified and without a hint of cruelty or malice. Junpei had no rebuttal.
さあ、これでもう分かっただろ。結論はすでに出ている。こうするより他に仕方がないんだ。行きたまえ。 私のことは構わずに。さあ、早く。
Junpei stood frozen by indecision, unable to move. June bit her lips so hard that Junpei feared she would break the skin. Xander stood against the wall, calm and aloof. Seven tore his beanie from his head and turned it over anxiously in his hands. Only Clover stared at Ace with an expression Junpei was unable to decipher. Lotus's attitude, however, was different from the others.
そうね。それじゃあお言葉に甘えさせてもらおうかしら。
She smiled, her eyes bright. Ace answered with a smile of his own.
ああ、そうしてもらえると助かるよ。私はここで一休みさせてもらおう。年のせいか、最近疲れやすくてね。
As he spoke, Ace lowered himself down to the floor next to one of the beds. From somewhere deep in the ship, Junpei suddenly heard the screeching of metal on metal. It was almost as if the ship was screaming. Would it really hold until the time limit was up? Already, D-deck was flooded. In the sudden silence, the only sound was the sad metal wail of the ship. Unsurprisingly, it was Lotus who spoke first.
ねえ、ちょっとみんな、何してるのよ。時間がもったいないわ。早く行きましょう。
As if a spell had been broken, the others all began to talk at once.
ああ、そうだな。行こう。今そうするしかあるまい。
セブンさん。
俺も賛成だぜ。正直長話にうんざりしてたところだ。
サンタさんまで。私もお兄ちゃんを探しに行かないと。ちょっと待ってください。みんな落ち着いて考えましょう。全員で脱出できる方法が必ずあるはずです。ね、そうでしょ、純平くん。なんとか言ってくださいよ。
ああ、そうだな。考えよう。何か方法を。
His words sounded hollow and fake.
だったらいいです。私が何とかします。
Hello, hello, good evening. She spun around and ran toward Ace. He had slumped down next to the bed when June grabbed his arm and pulled.
一宮さん。ほら、立ってください。諦めるのはまだ早いですよ。
I'm okay. I'm recovering from a weird cold. Other than that, I'm fine. A little tired.
一緒に考えましょう。全員で助かる方法を。
Then it happened. Ew. What the fuck? Ace fell forward. He slumped over onto the wooden floor, his body folded in half like a boxer out cold.
一宮さん。
June cried out and dropped to her knees beside him. She put her arm around his neck and did her best to lift him up.
ねえ、どうしたんですか？一宮さん。
His pixels are the same size as everyone else. And they were! Pixels were the same size. Thank you for the posture check and the hydrate time. Ah, yes. My favorite game that I've definitely finished playing. Octopath Traveler. I mean, what? She shook him frantically. His eyes fluttered open.
大丈夫だ。
With my age, I am simply so old. His voice was weak and slightly
大
slurred.
丈夫って。でも。
これだよ。
He held out his left arm and slowly opened his hand.
注射器。
And it was a sigh. How do you actually say it? I think I always say it the wrong way. Syringe and a small vial. The vial was empty. It had only recently been emptied. A few drops clung to the sides. There was a label taped to the side of the container. It read Soporil Beta. Soporil Beta?
マントレインベータ。何ですかこれは。これを打ったんですか？
ああ、ただの麻酔薬だよ。心配には及ばん。
麻酔薬。
ここに来る前に見つけたんだ。 個室の方の病室を探しているときに、いつか何かの役に立つのではないかと思い、まさか自分で使うことになるとはな。
どうしてそんなことを。
言っただろう。一休みさせてもらうって。もう疲れたんだよ。
I think
私は。
hitting yourself with an anesthetic to take a nap is maybe not the wisest decision you can make. Junpei knew that wasn't why he'd done it. Ace had injected himself with anesthetic to forestall Junpei and Jun's attempts to bring him along. If he couldn't move, there was nothing they could do. He'd injected himself so that they would be forced to leave him behind.
一宮さん。
おや、まだ用があるのかね。眠りたいんだ。少し静かにしてもらえないかな。
ダメです。ダメですよ、一宮さん。眠っちゃダメです。
ああ、君の胸は温かいな。とても心地がいい。なんだかいい夢が見られそうだ。
Ace's eyelids drooped further and further, almost as though he were dying.
一宮さん、一宮さん。
She shook his shoulder again and again, but this time he didn't respond. Only the gentle rising and falling of his chest told him he was alive. Junpei was relieved to see he was, in fact, still breathing.
ベッドの上に寝かせよう。
He lifted Ace up off the floor and laid him on the bed he'd been leaning against. When Junpei turned around, Lotus gave him a look of pity.
さあ、これで選択の余地はなくなったわね。彼の思いを無駄にしないためにも、私たちは前に進まなくちゃ。
Well, stop calling it a sacrifice and it would make it less weird and awful. Also, thank you for the non-binary. Good evening, Hannah.
そうでしょ？
心にもないこと。
何か言ったかしら？
いや、なんでもない。
It felt wrong, but he had to agree. Then suddenly Santa spoke.
選択の余地はまだ完全になくなったわけじゃないぜ。
え？どういうこと？
俺たち6人がどの扉に入るのかはまだ決まったわけじゃないだろう。
ああ、なるほど。確かにそうね。
無駄話はもうこりごりだ。さっさと決めちまおう。まずはヤシロ。あんたは何番の扉に入りたい？
私は、そうね。8番かしら。私のバングルナンバーと同じだし。
わかった。8番だな。それじゃあ次は7だ。あんたは何番の扉に？
俺は7を選ぶよ。そこのババアとは気が合いそうもない。
ああ？あんた今なんて言った？
He called you an old lady. Her face distorted by rage, Lotus took a step towards Seven. He threw up his hands and made a face like a child caught with his hand in a cookie jar.
何も言ってないよ。
覚えてなさい。
She shot him a glare that would have melted steel, then turned and stalked off.
さてと、次は誰から聞こうか？
Santa's gaze moved across the three people left. Finally, they stopped on Junpei.
順平、お前はどの扉に？
I also want door number 8, though. At last, Junpei's mind was already made up.
俺は8の扉に。
そうか、8だな。
ああ。
すると必然的に紫は7ってことになるわけだが。
どうしてですか？
なんでだよ。
Santa grimaced and muttered angrily to himself, but finally began to
俺
explain.
たち6人が揃ってこの先へと進むにはな、次の3通りのパターンで分かれる以外に方法はねえんだよ。
Plan A,
358で7に入り、467で8に入るか。
Plan B,
457で7に入り、368で8に入るか。
and Plan C.
もしくは367で7に入り、458で8に入るか。これ以外の選択肢はない。要するに3と4、5と6、7と8は絶対に同じ扉には入れねえってことだ。わかったな。
As Santa finished, Jun looked over at Junpei, tears welling up at the corners of her eyes.
そんな。それじゃあ私はこの先ずっと純平くんと離れ離れに。
You survived the other one as well. Calm down. Just, you know. Junpei felt just as June did. He wanted to be at her side through whatever trials they were preparing to face. But he knew if they were to survive, he had to swallow his feelings. In order for the six of them to move forward, he and June had to be separated. He looked at June. He was scared to lose her, but he swallowed, steeled his resolve, and did his best to smile.
おいおい、そんな根性の別れみたいな言い方するなよ。離れ離れになるって言ったって一時的なものだ。最初の4と5の扉の時だってそうだっただろ。
Yeah, see?
チームは2つに分かれたが、結局はこの部屋で合流することになった。きっと同じだよ。7と8の扉も。
どこか先の方で繋がってると。
ああ。おそらく。
She didn't sound very hopeful. It was Seven that interjected.
俺は間違いなく繋がってると思うぜ。
どうしてそう思うんですか？
もしも繋がってなかったとしたら、どっちのチームも9の扉には入れなくなっちまうからだ。つまり、この段階でゲームオーバーってことになる。ここまで用意周到にことを運んできたゼロが、こんなところで全てを終わりにするとは思えねえ。奴は最後の最後まで、このゲームを楽しむつもりでいるはずだ。誰かが9の扉にたどり着くまでな。
June said nothing. The tears were gone, but her eyes were still sad as he looked at Junpei. He met them, and with what reassurance he could manage, laid his hand gently on her shoulder.
大丈夫だ。もう一度必ず会えるさ。絶対。
June bit her lip and gave him an almost imperceptible nod.
約束ですよ。
Yes. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Santa's voice shattered a moment. Oh my god.
やっと終わったみたいだな。
Don't do that. He stretched and
と
continued.
にかくこれで問題はほぼ片付いたことになる。残った俺と四つ葉は自動的にどっちかへと割り振られることになるからな。なんだ、俺が7で四つ葉が8に入りゃいいのか。四つ葉、何か異論は？
Clover looked away and was silent for a moment.
別に。
It was more of a dismissal than an agreement, but Santa didn't seem to care.
よし、それじゃあこれで決まりだ。行こう。
At Santa's command, the group split and headed for their respective doors. Santa, Seven, and June walked toward door 7, while Clover, Lotus, and Junpei headed for door 8. For a long moment, they stood in front of the door. Then Lotus laid a hand against the chest and turned to Junpei and Clover.
準備はいい？
Yes.
ああ。
うん。
行くわよ。
Oh!
開いた。
A narrow hallway stretched out before
よ
them.
し。
行こう。
Lotus and Clover leapt through the door. The moment they did, their bracelets beeped. They do sound a little bit like Tamagotchis, not gonna lie. The detonators in the bracelets had been activated. Junpei stepped forward to follow them. But as he was about to step over the threshold, he stopped. He looked to his left, toward door 7. June stood there, a mirror image of Junpei. She turned and looked toward him. Their eyes met.
紫。
純平くん。
They nodded. The farewell took almost 1.5 seconds.
何やってんの？
Then someone took hold of Junpei's arms and hauled him bodily through the door. He heard the sound of the numbered door slam shut behind him. His bracer gave a cold electronic beep.
残り81秒よ。急いで。
Lotus snapped at him and ran to the dead. I'm not gonna call it dead. Just call it. Junpei and Clover followed her as fast as they could. Oh, would you look at that? We are not going to die.
止まったわね。
With a shaking hand, she wiped a few beads of sweat from her forehead. Clover, however, was calm, aloof perhaps.
くだらない。
She muttered to herself without emotion and began to walk down the hallway, leaving behind a confused Junpei and Lotus. Lotus watched the girls receding back with a mix of frustration and curiosity.
可愛くない女。
Says you. Right. This is, exhausting room to be in with both of them at the same time, I feel like.
絶対モテないタイプよ、あれ。
Who the fuck would care about that? Sarcasm seemed a little more biting than was perhaps necessary, but she sighed and stared after the younger girl.
この組み合わせにしたのは失敗だったかもしれないな。とりあえず追うか。
After taking a moment to catch his breath, Junpei followed.
行き止まりね。
The hallway made a number of turns before at last coming to a dead end.
一応、左手の壁に扉があるけど。
For a few minutes, they stood in front of the door, examining it. Above the door was a plate with the word laboratory engraved on it.
ラボラトリー、実験室か。
嫌な響きね。どう考えてもまともな部屋とは思えないわ。
You wanted to go through door 8?
って言っても他に扉はなかったしな。ここを開くしかないだろう。
順平くん？
あ？
お先にどうぞ。
Junpei suspected her politeness was motivated by something other than respect.
わかったよ。
Junpei muttered to himself and pushed open the iron door. His first steps inside were tentative and careful, but as he examined the room, it became clear that there was no imminent danger. Lotus followed him in, and Clover brought up the rear. Oh, yeah. I remember. The room they found themselves in was divided into two separate areas by a curved wall. A thick glass window built into that wall made it possible to see into the other side of the division.
窓の向こうにもう一つ部屋があるのか。
Clover's mood is a pretty concise, understandable reason. Lotus just, yeah. Lotus. I mean, I get that they had to write one character like it, but it's always just like, okay. Like the entire first, like toward the beginning of the game, her entire shtick is, no, we cannot do what this weird guy is saying. What the hell? We don't even know who that is or why he's doing this. And then her next thing is, okay, well, we gotta sacrifice someone and get a move on. Like, what if she had a number that made it impossible? What if she was the one that had to be left behind? No way in hell would she have stayed behind. Nah. She'd rather have sacrificed like 4 other people if she can make it through. Like, she feels like that type of character, which is fair. You can write that kind of character, but that doesn't mean I have to like them or like how they act.
まるで監視部屋ね。
Junpei walked to the window and looked through.
なんだあれ。
He wasn't sure what else to say. Ah, yeah, this one. In the center of a room shaped like a quarter circle, a mannequin lay on what looked like a medical exam table.
君が悪いわね。
Junpei jumped a little. He hadn't noticed Lotus come up next to him.
あの人形、まるで手術を待つ患者みたいだな。
ここは実験室でしょ？どっちかっていうと人体実験の被験者じゃない？まあどっちにしろ君が悪いってことには変わりないけど、突然起き上がってきたりとかしないわよね。
さあ、どうだろうな。なんかケーブルがぶっ刺さってるみたいだし、間違ったスイッチを押しちまったりすると。
やめてよ。考えただけでもゾッとするわ。
She was gripping her arms, the knuckles on her hands white.
そういや、四つ葉は。
She was still standing near the entrance of the room. Her face had the appearance of calm, but it was drawn and somehow sad. There was something almost pitiful about her. Junpei walked over to her and, as kind as he could, spoke.
大丈夫か？
Clover looked away.
何が？
何がって。お前のことを心配してるんだよ。さっきからずっと黙ったままだし。
いけないの？
いけなくはないが。
だったらほっといてくれない？
そういうわけにはいかないだろう。この先協力していかなきゃいけないわけだし。
Clover bit her lip and was silent for a moment, then suddenly
私の気持ちなんてわからないんだよ。
her cry took Junpei by surprise and he stumbled backward a few steps alarmed.
お兄ちゃんは私を置いていなくなっちゃうような人じゃないの。きっと何かあったんだよ。何か良くないことが。
Junpei had nothing to say. Lotus jolted from her mannequin nightmares, but Clover's voice turned toward them.
どうしたの？
Clover's eyes lit to Lotus, then back to
とに
Junpei.
かく私のことはもういいからほっといてよ。
Finished, she turned around. Before Junpei or Lotus could say anything, Clover had begun to walk quickly away. Okay, sure.
おい待てよ四つ葉
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no worries. Clover definitely has her moments. You just give her a minute.
待てってそっちは
ほっといてって言ってるでしょ。
He might as well have been talking to a wall for all the notice she took of his cries. Not even slowing down, she made for a doorway cut in the wall in front of her. Without even slowing down, she passed through the doorway. And without warning, an iron gate fell from the ceiling like a portcullis, sealing Clover in.
ちょっと何よこれ。
Clover grabbed hold of the iron bars and shook them as hard as she could.
待ってろ今開けてやるからな
まったくしょうがないわね。
Junpei grabbed the bars and pulled. In a moment, Lotus joined them. The three of them pulled as hard as they could, but portcullis. Okay, even if it is, I wouldn't know that word either, so I can definitely understand Clover here as well. Like, first she has to separate from her brother for this first room with a bunch of, you know, people she doesn't know. We don't know what happened over there. And then she comes back and she reunites with her brother very quickly, but they immediately split up again to look for more stuff, and then he's suddenly gone. And now she's stuck with two other people. One of them who she probably doesn't like very much, and the other one she doesn't even know because she hasn't really had a chance to get to know Junpei. And I don't think Lotus and Clover are the bestest of friends, as we can see. Have you actually closing game for? Yeah, sounds like it could be. Just a misspelling then.
ダメだびくともしないぜ
ちょっと待ってよ。簡単に諦め
No,
ない
I'm
でくれる？
going to try and find a way to open it.
諦めたわけじゃないこれもおそらくゼロの企みのうちの一つだろう
だとすると必ず開く方法が。
Junpei nodded.
調べてみよう
Oh yeah. Yeah, true. I do tend to also forget about the ninth man just dying in front of all of them, pretty much.
俺とヤシロはこっちのエリアを探すから四つ葉はそっちを頼む
After he, you know, held her at knife point and everything. Yeah. Clover has not had the best day so far. Like, none of them have had a good day, but I feel like Clover definitely is up there in worst days.
うん、わかった。
Alright. Sick way out. Okay. Many rooms. Something in here. Ethanol. What do I have here? Computer! Computer, the power isn't on. There is a power button. It's a waste of time. What? I see a power cable. Oh yeah, you're right, no power cable. I think it's even connected to a main computer now. got a monitor, keyboard, mouse, but that's it. Sticking the power cable in isn't going to do anything. Oh, I don't know about that. Power cable. Do we have a power cable anywhere? Any of these? It's a lot of stuff here. I don't know how we could use any of these. Well, I can say for sure that I do know how to use at least one of these things. Which one? The one on top. I think it's a power cable. The power cable! I'll take that. There we go. Power cable. Okay. Made a really thick glass. I don't even think a bullet could break it. Which is unfortunate. How do I... I know the game explained it to me, but how do I... No. No. Also no. Junpei, do something please. I'm trying. I'm trying. Can I give you stuff? No, not yet. I know for a fact I can give you stuff, but not yet. Can I... Ah. Can I... It's a rack. There are a bunch of cables on it. Somebody cut the other stuff out of the cables. I can see the wires inside. The outer stuff. Okay. So it's like an examination table. There's a creepy mannequin in here, guys. I'm aware. I think this thing is a monitor for whatever experiment they were running here. There's a bunch of stuff on here like resistance value and voltage. The power's off, so there's nothing on it right now. Okay. What about this thing? What kind of table is this? But part of it is all black. There's a pen lying over here. I think someone probably used it to make the table black. If they only used the pen on one part of it, there's probably something underneath all of that pen. Clover, do you think you can erase it? Yeah, sure. This is a permanent marker. But do you know how to erase ink from a permanent marker? Yeah, I literally... Here, take the ethanol. Erase ink from a permanent marker, huh? Give me just a minute, Clover, I'll be right back. Yes. Okay, let me give it to you through the bars then. Use this ethanol. You should be able to wipe off the permanent ink with it. What am I gonna wipe with? Oh, well, your clothes, of course. She didn't like that. Kidding, just kidding. Please don't look at me like that, you're scaring me. So did she take it or no? Yes, she did. Can you use the cloth on the table? Use, huh? Soak it in ethanol, then use it to wash off all the stuff from the permanent marker, okay? Right, okay, so I gotta soak the cloth with the ethanol. Yeah. Right, she's got the cloth, but she seems to be having a little trouble with the bottle of ethanol. When she's ready, I should ask her to get to work on her stuff on the table. Oh, just fucking do it, girl, please. Ethanol. Junpei, it's working! It's wiping the permanent ink off. There's some kind of weird drawing under all the permanent ink. What's the deeper drawing Clover found? Maybe I should ask her to take another look at the table. Maybe we're just going to click the table like for the 15th time. I wonder what this is. There are a bunch of numbers in some kind of grid. I can see it from here. Clover, you've got a pen and a notebook, right? Could you write those numbers down and then hand them to me through the bars? Okay. Roger. Thank you. Here, Junpei. I wrote down all the numbers from the desk on here. Paper with numbers on it acquired. New materials been added to the fire screen. Well, let me see. Let me see. No Clover copy from the Sandin laboratory. That's 4 numbers written in 9 separate cells. Is that a Sudoku? Could be. Speedy recovery and good night. Aw, thank you. You gotta unlug real quick. Have a good night, Artie. Thank you. I'm almost over it, I think. Just a little more. Last remains of the weird cough. Let me write this down before I have to open this like 15 more times. 3, 2. Okay. Can I plug you in? So you connect to the monitor and the other end needs to plug in under the desk. Let's just slip you in. I could use this. What's wrong? This cable has 3 prongs, but the socket only has 2 holes. It's not gonna fit, is what I'm saying. In other words, we're gonna need a plug to change the power cable to 1 or 2 prongs. That's right. Okay. A 2-prong cable. Hey Clover, how are the power cables over there? Huh? What do you mean? Does the plug have 3 prongs or 2? I don't know what you're talking about. Let me go look. I guess she does have to kind of crouch down to get a look under there. The cable on the monitor is it's got 2 of those little metal things. What does that mean? That's it. Okay, can you unplug the cable and bring it over here? Okay, but... Well, I can unplug it, but it's connected to the main computer. I can't take it over to you. Damn it, that's not good then. How about just the plug? What? The plug? Well, maybe more like a connector? It's a sort of thing that makes a plug with the 3 metal thingies into a plug with 2 metal things. Still useless? Not useless. Not useless at all. That's just what we were looking for. Okay. Can you hold on for a little bit? And back down she goes. Alright, unplug. I'll hand it to you over at the bars, okay? Sure. There you go, the 2-prong plug. Thanks. Which means we should be able to combine this, right? Put the 2-prong plug onto the head of this power cable, and we know we have a 2-prong power cable. Okay, let's plug that into the computer. Pretty sure this will work. And then let's say go. Let's just plug this thing into the monitor. That ought to do it. Alright, let's turn the power on. I don't think anything's going to happen. Why not? Well, it's not connected to the main computer. You never know until you try. Pretty optimistic. Hey, would you look at that? Junpei pushed the button on the front of the monitor. The soft timer turned on. Streams of letters that made no sense to Junpei began to scroll across the screen. He had hoped it would turn on, but he hadn't expected this.
なんでだ画面が勝手に動き始めたぞ。
みたいね。
みたいねって不思議に思わないのか？
何が？
こいつにはマシンの本体が接続されてないんだぞ。あるのはキーボードと液晶ディスプレイのみだ。ケーブルもさっき接続した電源のやつしか刺さってない。なのになんで動くんだよ。
ワイヤレスディスプレイなんでしょ。
Clearly this was a reasonable explanation to Lotus.
ワイヤレスディスプレイ？
本体とは無線でつながってるのよ。ただそれだけのこと。っていうか、淳平くん、いつの時代の人間？
He most certainly had not, but...
それって今は主流だったりするのか？
少なくとも私の周りではね。
え？
止まったわね。
パスの4文字とコロンか。
どうやらパスワードを入力しないとダメみたいね。
またかよ。この部屋のどこかにヒントが隠されてるってことか。
探してきてくれる？
あ、わかった。ってお前は。
私は自力で何とかしてみるわ。
自力で？
そう、自力で。
ヤシロ？
Lotus pulled over the nearest chair and dropped herself down onto it in front of the keyboard. For a second she stared at the screen. She kneaded her hands, knuckles popping, and twisted her back left and right. Have a good night, Mel. Thank you for coming by. Get some rest.
さて、一丁やっつけてやりますか。
Loda smiled to herself and rubbed her hands together in anticipation. Then, before Junpei had time to blink, she was typing at an incredible speed, the click-clack of the keys running together like machine gun fire. Junpei was, for once, at a loss for words.
意外だった？
当たり前だろうが。早すぎてもはや打ち込んでる指が見えねえし。お前一体何者だ？何の仕事してんだよ。
無職よ、今はね。
I'm unemployed at the moment. Huh?
前はセキュリティソフトの会社に勤めてたんだけど、辞めたの。
どうして？
Lotus blinked.
まあ、ちょっとね。
She stopped typing for a moment and her face fell.
そうか。
This was not an avenue of questioning to be pursued, Junpei realized and quickly shut his mouth. Lotus' fingers began to move again, and in a few seconds she was back up to speed. As she typed, more letters and symbols that meant nothing to Junpei began to pour across the screen.
で、今は何をしてるんだ？
The officer gave it as she works herself.
ブルートフォースアタックの準備。
ブルーと、なんだって？
Yeah. There's something about this CG and specifically her boobs. I'm like, okay. Not really how they would fall, especially not with the type of support she has in that outfit, but okay, you know what, whatever.
ブルートフォースアタック。総当たり攻撃のこと。
Without looking up or slowing down, she began to
暗号を
explain.
解読するための最も確実で最も面倒な手段。想定されよる文字列の組み合わせを全て確かめていく。そんな考えただけでも気が遠くなるような作業。それを自動で行ってくれるプログラムを組んでいるのよ。まあ、あまりエレガントなやり方とは言えないけど、この環境じゃ仕方ないわよね。
Even as she talked, her fingers never slowed or missed a key. Junpei couldn't help but feel a little
と
odd.
ころで、さっきの話だけど、
さっきの話？
ワイヤレスディスプレイの話。これってよく考えてみると、やっぱり不思議よね。なんて説明すればいいんだろう。例えば今、足し算を実行するプログラムを書くとするじゃない？ で、1+1 イコールと入力する。すると画面には答えである2という数字が表示されることに。ほら不思議だ。不思議じゃない？
Yes. Yes, we are. Because her CG is definitely bringing some attention to them. Also, hi.
あんまり。
だけど、大昔の人だったらそう思うわよね。わからないかな。1+1の計算をしたのは誰？
コンピューターの本体だろ？さっき無線でつながってるって。
でも、大昔の人だったらそうは思わないわよね。多分、このモニター自身が計算をしてるんだってそう思うはず。で、彼らは検証を始めてみるわけよ。
Who the heck starts a conversation like that? Hey, you're just jumping right into it.
モニターの表面をペン先でつついたりして、ここを押すとこんな風に色が変わるのか。次に中の基板をウリウリといじくって。なるほど。ここの配線がこの出力と関係してるんだな。最後にはこの配線をブチッと切断してみたりとかもして。やっぱりそうだ。配線を切断したら結果が出力されなくなった。ゆえに計算をしているのはこのモニター自身なのだ。本当は順平くんの言った通り、コンピューターの本体が計算してるのにね。でも大昔の人たちはそのことに気づかない。
The frantic clacking of the keys in the background is what really makes this for me.
まさか無線でつながってるとは思いもよらないから。
Lotus continued to type. Junpei scratched his head.
それで結局何が言いたいんだお前は。
別に 何も。ただ人間と脳の関係も同じなのかもしれないってそう思ったから。
Don't get all philosophical on me now, please.
例えば人間の脳のいろんな場所に電極を刺すとするじゃない。その時研究者はこんな風に言うかもしれない。ここを刺激するとこんな風に色が見えるのか。なるほど。ここの神経回路は A という機能を司ってるんだな。よし、試しにこの部分を切除してみよう。やっぱりそうだ。この部分を切除したら A という機能が失われた。故に人間の思考活動は脳によって行われているのだ。
Okay.
ね、同じでしょ。
Maybe.
人間の脳はただの出力装置、モニターなのかもしれないわ。思考活動を行っているのはどこか別の場所にある本体で、ただ私たちはそれを知らないだけなのかも。考えもしないのよ。大昔の人たちが電波の存在を知らなかったと同じように、私たちも思考の情報を運ぶ未知の媒体が存在するなんて思いもよらないから。
Junpei didn't say anything. Not so much because he had no retort. No, her argument just seemed silly, and he was a little surprised to be hearing something like it from someone like her.
脳はただの出力装置。思考の本体は別の場所にある。何言ってんだよ。
Is it though? Did Lotus really think that? He wondered. It was a little creepy, Junpei thought. It sounded altogether too much like a bizarre cultish religion.
もしかしたらセブンの記憶障害もそういうことなのかもしれないわ。
Oblivious to Junpei's increasing discomfort, Lotus
記憶
continued.
はどこか別の場所にある本体の方に格納されていて、本当は何も忘れてなんかいないのかもしれない。ただ脳というモニターに障害があるからうまく思い出せないだけで。失語症や孟子の人も同じ。本当は喋れるのかもしれない。本当は見えてるのかもしれない。ただモニターの調子が悪いだけでね。あとはそう、総合失認症の人だってそうかもしれないし。
ちょっと待て。
She's throwing around a bunch of words where I'm like, I have no idea what you're saying.
総合
I will be for real, I have no idea what that is. He knew what aphasia was from watching medical dramas on TV, and Blindside was easy enough to guess, but he'd never heard the word prosopagnosia before.
知らないの？総合失認症。
Should I? Lotus spun around in her chair to look at him. Junpei just shrugged and shook his head.
初めて聞いた言葉だ。なんだよそれ。
簡単に言うと、人間の顔を識別することができない症状の。
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, never mind. I do know that one. I just didn't know that was the proper term.
あの人とこの人の顔を区別することができないの。当然、顔を覚えることもできない。だから、道でばったり知り合いに出会っても、その人が誰なのかわからないのよ。と言っても、大抵は声や服装で判別できるみたいだけどね。
それって人間の顔が全部のっぺらぼうみたいに見えるってことか？
そういうのとはちょっと違うみたいよ。例えば猿山の猿を考えてみて。私たちにはどの猿も同じ顔をしてるように見えるでしょ。別にのっぺらぼうに見えるわけじゃないけど、それでも一頭一頭区別することはできないはず。長年付き合っている飼育員なら見分けることはできるのにね。
Yeah, makes sense.
まあ、要するにそういうこと。
総合失認症か。そんな症状があったとはな。
I think most people would just call it face blindness, though. Like, I don't think if you throw around a word like prosopagnosia, most people would know what the hell we're talking about. But if you say face blindness, yes, absolutely. Junpei did his best to act as though the entire lecture hadn't gone entirely over his head.
ほんで何の話だったっけ？
脳はただのモニターなのかもしれないって話。
それって本気で言ってるのか？
まさか半分は冗談よ。
残りの半分は？
そうね、 下段かしら？
寒いな。
Lotus smiled at something rather masochistic
と
to
に
it.
かくただのヨタ話みたいなものだから真に受けないでね。ちょっと思いついたから退屈しのぎに行ってみただけ。でももう話す必要はなくなったわ。
どうして？
退屈じゃなくなったからよ。
As she spoke, Lotus raised her right arm high and brought it down on the enter key.
完成したのか？そのブルーとなんとかってやつ。
ええ、ほら結果が出るわよ。
Chunks of text flickered on and off in quick succession, and then a line of numbers appeared, blinked, and disappeared. The screen cleared, and all that was left was the word accepted.
楽勝ね。
Lotus would clearly have patted herself on the back if it would not have made her look entirely ridiculous. After a few seconds, the accepted disappeared to be replaced with 9 squares arranged in a 3x3
画
square.
面が切り替わったが、なんだこりゃ。
さあね。パズルのように見えるけど。
Suddenly, Lotus stood up.
解いてくれないのかよ。
仕方がないじゃない。プログラムが組めないんだもの。キーボードを叩いても。ほらね。こうなったら私にはどうすることもできないわ。というわけだから、淳平くん。あとは任せたわよ。
Thank you.
何よ。ちょっとぐらい休ませてくれたっていいでしょ？私はきちんとやるべきことはやったんだから。
それは。
He wasn't sure what to say to that. She certainly had done her part. In fact, without Lotus, they probably would have run completely aground. I shouldn't rely on other people so much, Junpei thought to himself.
まあ、そうだよな。助かったよ、ヤシロ。
はいはい。素直でよろしい。
さて、ここから先は自分の力で何とかしないとな。
Junpei crossed his arms and stared at the puzzle shown on the screen. Well, to be fair, this one is extremely fucking easy since we already have Clover's note and I actually wrote down what it said. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Though even without that, you could probably brute force this by just trial and erroring the correct order to push these in. I solved it! Did you hear a noise just now? Yeah, I did. It sounded like something unlocking. Where did it come from? Oh! These lockers, clearly. Look, Junpei, the lights on the locks are green. Then we must have unlocked it with the computer puzzle. Yes. But it feels nice. It feels nice to have found the proper hint to do it with, you know. There's more than one key in here. This one is small and it looks like it goes to some sort of machine. And this one has the Earth symbol on it. And the Earth symbol matches a key on a door in the A deck. Well, if that's the case, we probably don't need the Earth key right now. Alright then, Earth key. I just took you away deep in my pocket. As for the other key, activation key, probably for the machine, right? Maybe. It was just at that moment that he heard a voice behind him. It was Clover.
ねえ、淳平。ちょっといい？
Yeah? He put the puzzle aside for the moment and walked over to Clover.
どうしたんだ？
ね、一つ聞きたいことがあって。淳平、さっきお兄ちゃんと一緒に5の扉に入ったでしょ？
Yeah, and then he told me that he could clearly and easily beat me up and if I wanted to try, and I said no, thank you.
その時、何か気になること。
And we held hands.
Huh?
Why is she asking me this? Junpei wondered. The more he thought about it, however, the more it made sense. Snake had been gone for a long time. Clover was quite attached to her brother. Of course she would have been worried about him.
そうだな。
He thought back to when he'd gone through door number 5, hoping he might remember something, even a small something that would help her. However, hi, Raiders, welcome in. Good evening. Hi. Yeah. I was a little bit sick, so we're on the mend, but otherwise I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm sorry there's no Pikachu right now because my voice is not all the way back, but I hope you had a good stream. Hi.
すまん四つ葉。特に思い当たることはないよ。ただ人並み外れた聴覚を持ってるとかなんとかって。
Yumi is a lot of fun. I'm glad to hear that.
そんな話ぐらいしか。
そう。
How far into the game are you? Yes, 99 was going very well. I don't know how far we're actually going to get tonight, but we're on our way to our first bad ending. Those words were barely audible. She nodded vaguely to Junpei and turned to walk away.
ちょっと待ってくれ。こんなこと聞いていいのかどうかわからないが、もしも差し障りなかったら教えてくれないか。ニルスはその生まれつき。
You ran out of item space and before you get back. Ah! I do want to try my hand at my next ATE game. Every time I don't play them for a few months, I start to miss them. I'm glad to hear you're having so much fun with it.
目のこと？
ああ、そうだ。
生まれつきじゃないよ。お兄ちゃん、小さい頃事故に遭って交通事故。それで視力を失っちゃったの。左腕もその時に。
左腕？
お兄ちゃんの左腕は普通の人とは違うの。人工的に作られたものなんだ。事故の時に大怪我を負って、そうしなきゃならなくなって。
I forgot that fact actually. It feels good to replay 999. There is quite a few things I've definitely forgotten.
もういい？
Talking about her brother clearly taking a great deal out of Clover. Junpei nodded. You're not accustomed to the Japanese dub? Oh! See, I would not be accustomed to the English dub. I've only played this game with the Japanese one. Well, without a dub and then with the Japanese one. Also, thank you for the posture check. Pick up on things you missed on the first run. Fair, though, like, this is technically my 4th time playing 999. So, I think technically I've seen everything there is. But it's always nice to do it again.
すまなかったな。辛いことを思い出させてしまって。
I like the games a lot. Clover only shook her head and walked off down the stairs. Me too. That's actually the reason why we're replaying 999. Because of the newly announced Somnium Files game, so it seems to have memorized a Wikipedia article before being kidnapped. Sometimes it does feel like that, because every time you're in a room with a few other people, at some point they will absolutely just drown you in some kind of information where you're like, okay, I don't think the average person would have that much knowledge on a specific topic, but that's one of those things you just can't question. In these games, you just gotta accept that, yeah, okay, sure, I will learn something about a thing I've never thought about before in my life, and I will like it. I finally joined the dots between... Maybe, yeah. Let's see if this is our key to turning this on. It's key. The shapeshift makes it seem like it goes to this machine. We'll try it then. Turning it on. Vroom. The monitor's on now. And it's full of letters. So there's not a reason to bring the subject up. No. He's only listened so far. He's done relatively little talking. Showing some kind of warning. Power restored to experimental device. Emergency system will activate in the event of abnormal subject behavior. Okay. Abnormal subject behavior. Clover! Attack that weird skeleton. Wait, not like this. Oh. Clover! Do something to this thing. There's something sticking out of the mannequin's head, like wires or something? What were they doing in there? Is she all quiet now? They were doing experiments on humans. Probably. Oh man, now she looks sad. Junpei, this thing in here is on now. Yeah, that's cause we activate the power on this side. Would you like play with it a little? Okay. Yeah. I'll turn this dial here. I don't think it's working. Nothing happened. Or maybe she missed something. I should ask her to look around the room again. Did she miss something? I think we have everything connected though, right? Maybe this thing. Monitor, there are a whole lot of cables under this table. Okay, no. What have I not checked out in this room? The scribblings? Cables? Cannot look. No, funnily enough, I have not played the DS release. I have played the iOS mobile novel release and then this version. And I'm one of the few people that owns Virtue's Last Reward on the 3DS. If you increase the voltage? Roger, will do. Okay, I'm gonna go all the way to max voltage. Max voltage? Hey, wait, Clover. Shit. What? I think I, oh yeah, maybe that's a little too much. Oh. Oh my god. The mannequin's head. Oh man, that sounds like a fire alarm. What the hell? Fire detected, fire detected. Emergency system will be activated. Evacuate the room immediately. Oh, would you look at that? She got out of it. Maybe. I need to actively go over there, I guess. Damn, the gate's still shut. Oh, it is. What about this door? Control device for the electronic door lock. Green light is on. Open the fucking door, please. Junpei, look at the light. Yeah, it's green. Emergency system has activated and disabled the lock. Now we can save Clover. Hey, Junpei. Come on, kid, jump. Jump? Kid, she's not that much younger than you, is she? How old is Clover in the first game? That would have been amazing. Are you talking about the final puzzle? Or 18? She's not that much younger than him, no. That smoke is some serious business. Time to close the store again, I think. Clover, are you okay? Are you hurt? She's coughing so hard she can't even talk. Of course I'm not alright. What the hell took you so long, you big jerk? Well, I accidentally went to the wrong door, I'm sorry. I was almost dead. Sorry, I was going as fast as I could. You two can do this later. Right now we need to get the hell out of here. The fire's not going to stay in our room forever. True. Let's get out of there then. Junpei, Clover, and Lotus leapt out of the laboratory, slamming the door shut behind them.
なんとか出れたね。
はあ
All three collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Junpei's heart was pounding in his chest and his whole body felt weak. He inhaled gulps of clear air, and with each one he could feel his body begin to calm down.
よし行こう。
うん。
They nodded to each other and started off down the hallway. Before long, they found a few new doors, but all of them were locked.
どの扉もダメね。鍵がかかってる。
We began onwards. Okay, frankly, it has been a few years since I last played, so I cannot place it just from that thing alone. But yeah, no spoilers. Just because I've played the game before and a few people in chat have played it before, we don't want to accidentally spoil it for anyone who's never seen it. Excuse me? Hold on. Cat. Business. Was machst du da? Hm? Cool. Was wird das? Adol. Oh. Oi. Nah, no worries. No worries. But thank you for taking care. No, sometimes people tend to spoil even if they don't mean to, but you're very good. I just wish my brain would be able to actually tell what exact moment you feel you explained, because I don't know. I would like to experience the DS version. Maybe I'll look it up. Maybe I'll look up someone else's playthrough of it.
次の扉はどうかな。
The final door sat in a corner of the hallway.
今度こそ開けばいいんだけど。
That's at least a big door. Junpei grabbed the door handle and was about to pull it open when a voice cried out behind him. It was neither Clover nor Lotus, but he recognized it. There was no doubt the voice belonged to... Who else? He spun around. There, at the other end of the hall, Junpei saw human figures running toward him. 3 of them.
紫、それに、サンタとセブンも。
They stopped short in front of Junpei and his companions, gasping for air.
おい、なんでお前らがここにいるんだよ。
なんでって言われても。
Before he could finish, Clover spoke.
ねえ、ちょっとみんな、こっち来てもらえる？
She was standing near the end of a small hallway that branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious as to what she'd found.
おい、この壁に貼ってあるのって。
Clover's voice. No. No. Clover is not voiced by Aya Hirano. Who told you that? Who told you that Clover is voiced by Aya Hirano? Because Clover is voiced by Yukari Tamura, who's also, for example, Rika Furude from Higurashi. Or Io, if you've played any of the Granblue games. Which are like the 2 voices that I would immediately associate with her. Also, obviously, some others. If you've played Genshin Impact with Japanese voices, Chichi and Nahida are also her. But Aya Hirano has some way other roles. If you've played Steins Gate, also Amane Suzuha, also her. Everyone is so mean to her. Me. Unless she has a different voice in Witch's Last Reward? No. 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 I don't know who told you that she's voiced by Aya Hirano. But whoever that was wrong.
船内マップだ。
左上のところに C デッキとありますね。
このフロアのマップだってことかしら。
7の扉と8の扉、それぞれのルートをたどると今俺たちがいる通路に出るようになっている。
Apparently so. Yeah. No, sorry. Granted, it has been quite a few years since I've actively heard Aya Hirano in anything, I have to say. Like, because Aya Hirano definitely in my mind is also always Haruhi Suzumiya. What has she voiced recently? She is Lucy in Fairy Tail. Also Beatrix in Granblue. Anything else? She doesn't do as... She's Rin in Catherine Full Body. She's Hana in Yakuza. Monaka in Danganronpa 3. She doesn't do as much anymore, I feel like. But yeah, I guess biggest role aside from Haruhi Suzumiya that you could that I would give to Aya Hirano would be Lucy from Fairy Tail. Misa and Death Note. I mean more modern stuff. Like in more recent times, but yeah. Misa and Death Note. I've never seen Death Note. Always associated with the role of Jules in Pulp Fiction. Yeah. Yeah, some roles are just stuck for specific people for sure. It's Makima from Chainsaw Man. Oh, interesting. Not seen or read Chainsaw Man yet either. And I've definitely not seen any Chainsaw Man plays. In fact...
要するに、俺の言った通りだったってことだよ。9の扉を見つけるまで、俺たちが離れ離れになることはないんだ。
Makes sense.
一時的に分離したとしても、必ずどこかで合流するようになってる。そうしないと、誰も9の扉を開けなくなっちまうからな。そういう風にできてんだよ。
Junpei looked at the map of the ship's interior again.
おい、これって。
As he looked more closely, surprise and excitement gave way to wariness.
マジかよ。
One by one, the others saw what he'd seen.
とにかく行きましょう。
そうだね。
As one, they all moved back toward the door Junpei had only a moment ago been ready to open.
忘れるところだった。こいつは取っておかないとな。
He pulled the map of the ship's interior off of the wall and put it in his pocket and followed the others. So how do you say, I guess things came full circle? Aw, that's nice. I mean, to be fair, I wanted to read Chainsaw Man because it was like, okay, Chainsaw Man's over now. And I was like, oh, okay, but Chainsaw Man's still continuing. So I'm like, what do you mean? I thought it was done. No, here's more. Okay, I guess I'm gonna wait now. 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Sender stepped forward. He took hold of the door and spoke without looking back at the other
いい
5.
か、開くぞ。
They nodded their silent assent. The deep breath Santa threw open the door. He poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each one of them knew where they were.
やっぱり。
We're back in the fucking building again. They were just where the map had said they would be.
戻ってきたんだ。この大病室。
なるほど、話は分かった。君たち6人は2つのチームに分かれ、7の扉と8の扉に入っていった。そしてそれぞれ手術室と実験室の謎を解き、出口を抜けた通路のところで合流することになったと。
Yes. He looked like anyone might after only just waking up, but it seemed that his brain was working as well as ever. He had managed to grasp, summarize, and understand each team's
それ
report.
にしてもなんだかな、 どうも肩透かしを食らった気分だよ。必ず戻ってきてくれると信じている。確かに私はそう言ったが、まさかこんなに早く実現するとはね。
He shook his head with a rueful smile.
まあいずれにせよ、こうして無事に再会できたんだからよかったじゃねえか。
Seven
とに
smiled.
かくこんな陰気な場所はとっととおさらばすることにして、はい、そのための鍵は見つかったんだからな。
そのための鍵？
さっき言っただろ、木製の鍵のことだ。手術室で見つけたんだよ。
And we have the Earth Room.
ほれこいつ。
Seven tossed something small and metallic toward Junpei.
ナイスキャッチだ。
たく。
He caught it and found that the object was a key.
なるほど。これが木製の。
On it, someone had engraved a symbol very similar to a 4. That's because you're holding it the wrong way. He looked over at June, who nodded back. It had to be a Jupiter symbol.
お前に預けとくよ。持っててくれ。
Okay.
ああ、わかった。
それじゃあついでに私からも。はい、これ厨房で見つけた土星のカードキー。私が持ってるとなくしちゃいそうだからあなたに預けておくわ。
You could have just not said the last sentence, but okay.
ああ、わかった。
And with that, she pressed it into Junpei's hand. He felt slightly less than honored.
それで結局未使用の鍵はいくつになったんだ？
実験室で見つけた地球の鍵。今セブンから渡された木製の鍵。そしてヤシロからもらった土星のカードキー。それじゃあ責任を持って預からせてもらうよ。
Ooh, I can see the moon outside. Why is it so bright today? Oh. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. June spoke up.
確か木製の鍵ってあの長い直線通路の突き当たりの鍵でしたよね。
そうだ。マップによるとその先は大階段につながってるらしい。で、大階段の周辺にはだな。
待ってよ。
They were the first words anyone had heard out of Clover in quite some time. The face suggested they weren't going to be very happy words.
3の扉はどうするの？
どうするって、あの船内マップお前だって見ただろ。あの扉も7や8と同じだ。結局はこの大病室に戻ってきちまう。
Yeah, but seeing as you found keys in both behind the 7 and the 8 rooms, there might be another key that is vital to our survival behind door 3.
意味がないんだよ。あの先を調べても。
Just saying.
意味はあるよ。少なくとも。
There were tears in her eyes, but she glared at Seven as hard as she could just the same. She looked very much like a frightened puppy. There wasn't a man alive who could have resisted those eyes. Seven looked everywhere in the room except the Clover and muttered and coughed apologies under his breath.
そうだったな。悪かったよ。もしかしたら3の扉の先にニルスがいるかもしれないもんな。
Clover nodded once. The next person to speak was Ace.
わかった。それでは私がお供することにしよう。だいぶ休ませてもらったからね。今度は私が働く番だ。というわけだからセブン、力を貸してくれるね。
俺が？
Junpei did the calculations quickly in his head. 4 plus 1 plus 7 is 12 and 1 plus 2 is 3. It looked like 7 was doing them too. At last, he gave up.
そういうことか。俺が行くのが一番手っ取り早いってことだな。
その通り。
たくしょうがねえな。
And so it was decided that Clover, Ace, and 7 would discover what lay beyond door 3. You know what?
Yeah.
Everyone choose a number and I'll see if I can actually say it correctly.
気をつけてね。
おお、ヤシロの口からそんな言葉が聞けるとはな。
勘違いしないでくれる？あんたたち3人に死なれると困るのよ。 私と淳平くんとサンタと紫、この4人だけじゃ9の扉を開けないから。
なるほど。そういうことね。
Seven nodded as if this answer made much more sense and pulled the lever on the red.
よし、行こう。
The door opened and Ace, Clover, and Seven jumped through it. 6, 7, 8. After exactly 9 seconds, the door closed noisily.
さてと、それじゃあ、私、
行く？
行くってどこに？
Opening the doors we have keys for? Everyone except Lotus seemed rather
た
confused.
だ待ってるだけじゃ時間がもったいないでしょ。だから。
なるほど。木製の鍵を使ってこの先を調べに行くってわけですね。
そう。もしかしたらこの先にニルスがいるかもしれないし。
They were at the end of the hallway lined by individual hospital rooms.
確かに鍵穴のところに
Oh no,
木
never
製の
mind.
マー
This
クが
one
あるな。
is this way around. My bad. The Saturn one is the other way around.
というわけだから、淳平くん。早速だけど、よろしく頼むわ。
ああ、わかった。
Junpei pulled a Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid it into the keyhole. He twisted. With a nice sharp click, he felt the door unlock. Junpei sucked in a breath, held it, and opened the door as quietly as he could. Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in a tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom with a massive central staircase.
おいおい、振り出しに戻っちまったじゃねえか。いいのかよ。
何が？
この辺りはもう隅々まで調べただろう。こんなところに来て意味があるのかって聞いてんだ。
Of course.
意味はある。あるに決まってるだろう。たく、お前は。鋭いのか抜けてるのか。さ
あ？
これだよ、これ。
Junpei pulled two things out of his pockets.
土星のカードキーと地球の鍵？どういうことだ？
Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. Not even a Jupiter key can find a lost opportunity. Oh? Lost opportunity for what? Oh my god, there's something in my eye. Get out. Please get out. After several long moments, during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant, June took pity on him.
サンタさん、覚えてないですか？この C デッキ、大階段の裏手にエレベーターがあったでしょ？そのエレベーターの脇には土星のマークが刻まれたカードリーダーが。あとは A デッキの左側のドアにも地球のマークが記された鍵穴があったと思います。つまり淳平くんが持っている2つの鍵を使えば
エレベーターを動かしたり A デッキのドアを開いたりできるってことか。
He started to spoil. Yeah, I have a lot of text in all of those information boxes. What is this? Please get out of my eye, whatever you are. Ouch. Oh, I think I finally got it.
は
Maybe.
い、そういうことです。
June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa.
よし、わかった。そうとわかれば早速行動開始だ。二手に分かれよう。俺とヤシロは地球の方を調べるから、順平と紫は土星の方を頼む。
了解だ。ならこの鍵は渡しておいた方が良さそうだな。
Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that the initial search should be
こ
brief.
の先がどうなっているのかはわからないが、とにかくあまり深入りはせずに、ざっと10分程度調べたら戻ってこよ
Plan decided, the two teams split it up. Excuse me? Okay. Split it up, sure.
2機あるエレベーターのうち左側の方にだけカードリーダーが取り付けられていますね。
じゃあ早速ここに土星のカードキーを滑らせてみるか。
A light in the upper left corner blinked to life.
起動したみたいだ。
それじゃあ次はボタンですね。
There was a single button to the right of the elevator door.
下向きの逆三角形のボタンだけしかついていないんですね。
上階へ向かうための上向きのボタンはないのか。まあ、とりあえず押してみるか。
The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. Cha-chan!
開きましたよ、シュウペイ君。
It's not a very inviting looking one. Yeah, I thought I saw it wrong for a second, but what the fuck do you mean? Jun's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a tinge of anxiety.
開いたな。行くぞ。
He grinned at June and stepped toward the open door. As he was about to set foot in it, he felt a hand on his arm.
ちょっと待ってください。
なんだよ。
まだ心の準備が。
Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? June was probably afraid of the fact that they could only go down. She was afraid because the only elevator button pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevators on the A or B decks near the central staircase. All of which meant that the elevator could only convey them to the lower decks.
考えてみれば、この下の階、D デッキは完全に水没してるんだよな。水没したフロアに向かうエレベーターか。そりゃ怖いよな。え？ちょっと待てよ。さっきこのエレベーター、下から登ってきたよな。
はい、そうですね。ボタンを押してもすぐに扉は開きませんでした。開いたのはモーターか何かの稼働音が聞こえてきてからで。
だよな。
です。
Yeah, but there's no water on it, is it?
だけど、見ろよエレベーターの中。
Annoying. Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator.
全く濡れてないだろ。壁も床も。
言われてみると確かにそうですね。
She looked around the elevator, slightly
調
embarrassed.
べてみよ
調べる？
う。ああ、こうするんだよ。よっと。こうやって片足だけ突っ込んで半身の姿勢で回数ボタンを探せば。ボタンは2つだけか。C と E だな。よし、E の方を押すぞ。
He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. I still think it is a creepy looking elevator. Even without the whole, oh yeah, it passes through a floor that supposedly is submerged in water.
よし、それじゃあ、あとはまた逆三角形のボタンを押せば。
A few moments later, the elevator returned. じゃじゃん。
やっぱり中には水滴一つ見当たらない。
Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest just a little bit. June, however, still looked confused.
どういうことでしょう。D デッキは水没してるのに、その下の E デッキは無
Getting
事って
into
こと
elevators
です
the last thing I would do. Yeah. I think both if a building is on fire or if you're in a anything sinking into the water, you do not want to go down, and you also do not want to get into elevators. I think you do not want to get into elevators most of the time, even if the building is perfectly safe. I don't like getting into elevators most of the time. I've luckily never been in an elevator that is stuck, and it's also not something I ever want to experience because I feel like getting stuck in an elevator and not knowing when help will arrive and get you out of there has to be one of the scariest experiences ever. Oh my god, I'm going to scream. What are you, and why are you in my eye, and why won't you leave me alone? It might be an eyelash, but I can't seem to get it. Whatever it is, it's highly uncomfortable.
らしいな。おそらく E デッキの一部とエレベーターのシャフトは密閉構造になってるんだろう。
I still would not want to go down there.
こんな感じで。
He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched out a rough illustration.
なるほど。だからこの船は浮いていられるんですね。ちょうどフラスコを水に沈めたような形になってるから。
ああ、多分そういうことだろう。
Jumpy continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his
とい
pocket.
うわけだから、俺はちょっと下の様子を見てくるよ。お
Mm-hmm.
前はここで待機を。
でも
いいから。言った通りにするんだ。
He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze and hopped onto the elevator. He pushed the E button and the door began to close. June looked worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly...
私も行きます。
At the last possible moment, June dashed forward, turning sideways just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors.
あ、おい、ちょっと待て。
Jumpy jumped his finger against the open button, but it was too late. Well, now you're both going to die.
しまっちまった。
Thank you for the hydro time at the pad. I do not know why am I suddenly leggy? I don't like being leggy. In the base game, you have one available girlfriend. True. The door had shut, he and June were in the elevator, and he was headed down to E-Deck. He was so surprised by June that he didn't even have time to think about what awaited him on E-Deck.
つい乗っちゃいました。
お前な。
Good thing is, there's nothing that's going to kill them on E-Deck, so we're safe, but... The elevator stopped and the door slid open. They tentatively stepped out and looked
異
around.
常はないみたいだな。
No fish going about the fishy business or jellyfish floating lazily through the water. There was, however, a blowfish. Or at least something that looked very much like one. June's cheeks were puffed out and her mouth a tiny, intense frown. Occasions are where you're stuck for hours or so rare, you're more likely to be involved in a plane crash. Plane crash? Okay, I don't like that either. I do not like to think about those kind of things. That makes me anxious. I don't want to imagine being in either of those situations.
大丈夫だよ。やっぱりこの辺りは水没を免れてるんだ。だって見りゃわかんだろうがそのぐらい。
June looked around nervously, then exhaled.
本当だ。全く浸水してませんね。
だろ？
でもこの上には
ああ、乗っかってることになるな。
もしも天井が抜け落ちてきちゃったらどうします？
Well, you shouldn't be down here if that happens, so let's get to it. Junpei thought about that for a moment.
死ぬ。
Thank you, Junpei.
そんなあっさり言わないでくださいよ。
We'd probably die. Thank you.
とにかくこの辺りを調べたらすぐに引き返そう。ヤシロとサンタはもう戻ってるかもしれないし。
わかりました。了解です。
さてと。
Junpei glanced around the room they found themselves in. The first thing he noticed was a set of thick iron bars. They ran the length of the room, separating the left elevator from the right one.
鉄格子か。 ここは抜けられそうもないな。
I would argue, but I think this is probably just because of the 3D models. I feel like this is definitely a height you could probably climb. And there is enough space up here that you could fit through there. So technically, yes, you should be able to go to the other side. But we're just going to assume no, there's no possible way to get past these iron doors, and it's maybe just a modeling issue.
ですね。
逆側はどうだ？
In the corner of the room that housed the elevators, Junpei found an opening. He walked up to it and stuck his head around the corner.
こっちは長い直線通路になってるみたいです。
And the number 6 door.
突き当たりのドアに何か書いてあるな。まさかあれは。
確かめに行きましょう。
Junpei and June set off down the hallway at a brisk clip somewhere between a run and a jog. Before long, they found themselves in front of the door. On it was a number written in bright red paint. 6.
やっぱりだ。
ナンバリングドアですね。
And indeed, there was a rat bolted to the wall right next to the door.
でも二人だけではどうすることもできませんね。
戻ろう。みんなに知らせるんだ。
はい。
Junpei and June turned and headed back to C deck. Nani? On their way back, Junpei noticed a map on the wall.
壁にかかってるこれ。念のため持っていくか。そうか。そっちは1か。
Door number 1. But who would we need to get into door number 1? We could take Junpei, Clover, and Ace to get into door number 1. Example. He met back up with Santa and Lotus, who had explained what they had found. Apparently, there was another number door on A deck, just like the one on E deck, beyond the door that the Earth Key opened. According to Santa and Lotus, there was a 1 on the door.
これで俺たちは新たに6の扉と1の扉を発見したってことになるのか。
それにしてもEデッキが水没してなかったとは驚きね。
Lotus was quiet for a moment, lost in
い
thought.
や、Eデッキの全部が無事かどうかはわからないよ。俺たちが見たのはエレベーターの周辺だけだし。
だとしても同じよ。驚愕の事実であることに変わりはないわ。
しかも通路の先には6の扉があったんだろ。
Yep.
ってことはゼロはこうなることを全部計算に入れた上でこの船を大改造したってことになる。
とても正気の沙汰とは思えないわね。
そうですね。一体どれだけの時間とお金をかけたんでしょう。
おそらく天文学的な数字だろうな。
A whole lot of money, probably.
だとするとやっぱり一宮が言っていたようにどこかの莫大な資金を持った組織による犯行と見るのが自然かな。
ええ、そうかもしれないわね。
That thought made them all go quiet for a moment. June bit her lip while Lotus sighed softly to herself, and Santa cracked a stiff neck and stared off into the distance at nothing.
え、そろそろ帰らないとまずいんじゃないでしょうか。
June looked up at Junpei with large pleading eyes.
ああ、そうだな。一宮たちが戻ってきてるかもしれないし。
1の扉なら私と紫と純平くんで開けるけどね。
I guess.
あ？俺を置き去りにするつもりか？
8 plus 6 plus 5 is 19, and 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1.
冗談よ。さあ、行きましょう。
Lotus's words were all the impetus they needed. Back to the large hospital room they went. Oh yeah. The moment they stepped inside, a tremendous voice echoed across the room.
おい、てめえら一体どこに行ってたんだ。
It was 7.
セブン？
Ace was right behind him, and Clover was behind Ace, although she seemed to be hanging back.
なんだ？
It looked as though there was something strange about them. 7 had the look of a man who'd seen a ghost. Ace was just as pale, and Clover looked as though she was only moments from passing out entirely. For long moments, they simply stood there looking at one another. Favorite character? I think for 999, I'd have to say my favorite character is Snake. I like the guy. Snake and Clover. Snake and Clover. I do like them both. 7's your fave? He is good. He's a very good character. To be fair, I like them all. To an extent. some slightly more, some slightly less. For story reasons, but I think they're all very well written. Jimmy looked around nervously, waiting for someone else to speak. No one did. He looked at 7.
何かあったのか？
あったところの騒ぎじゃねえんだよ、バカ野郎!
7 was trying very hard to be angry, but something had shaken him hard. His shoulders were trembling and his voice was strained.
ニルスがな。ニルスが。
7 couldn't finish. He just looked away, his face twisted by. Junpei wasn't sure what. Instead, Ace spoke. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and spoke.
ニルスが死んでたんだよ。
Excuse me?
あの9番の男のようなむごい姿で。
It was as if all the air had suddenly been sucked out of the room. Junpei felt his heartbeat quicken and he realized he was having trouble breathing. His Snake, Clover, and 7. Ah! If I had to choose 3 favorites, it would be Snake, Clover, and June. June, Sand, and Lotus looked the way he felt. All 3 were frozen in place, their faces wide.
嘘でしょ？
とにかく私たちも確かめに行きましょう。
ああ、そうだな。
They nodded to one another and headed for the number 3 door.
あ、違う、そっちじゃねえ。
何？3の扉じゃないのか？
They stopped short and turned to look at 7. He was pointing at the door with no number.
ドアの間にドライバーをかませておいた。
See? I think 7 is very smart for keeping all the doors open all the time. I wish more of them would do it. The 9th man. Yeah. Arguably, because he, he's not very present in the game. I don't really count him towards, like, the main characters of the game. Like, yeah, sure, he exists, but, like...
ロックはかかってねえから、そっちの数字の書かれてない方のドアから入れ。
その先は？
現場は通路の左手にあるシャワー室の中だ。そこのドアにも同じようにほうきの絵が挟み込んである。
つまりナンバリングドアを通らなくても出口の方からそのシャワー室とやらに入れるってことだな。
And it was needed. It was needed. They needed someone to see that, okay, this is actually for real and we are going to die if we don't adhere to the rules. Otherwise, these type of games would not work.
ああ、そうだ。
そういうことなら決まりだな。行こう。
The new destination cleared, Junpei and his companions headed for the door with no number. Once in the hallway, it was easy to spot the metal door on the left
こ
wall.
のドアか。さっき通った時には。
But now, just as 7 had said, there was a broom stuck between the door and the frame, keeping it open.
それじゃ進むぞ。
They looked at it for a moment, then stepped inside.
ひどい匂いね。
Lotus wrinkled her nose and covered her mouth in disgust. Even Santa pinched his nose shut.
ああ、本当にひどいな。吐きそうだぜ。
It was just as bad as they said, perhaps worse. A hideous smell filled the air, so thick they could almost taste it. It was sour and smelled of fish, feces, and burnt meat. It worked its way through Junpei's nose and down his throat to pound against the entrance to his stomach. He put his hands over his mouth and struggled to keep what little was in his stomach where it belonged. They didn't have to wonder where the body was. There was blood everywhere, a few arms of the splatter reaching toward them as they walked in through the door. All one had to do was follow the many radial arms to the source. The body itself was hidden behind a divider.
紫、お前はここで待ってろ。いいから黙って言うことを聞くんだ。いいな。
He didn't give her a chance to say no. He put his hand on her shoulder as if to shove her into the ground like a tent pole, turned and walked toward the end of the divider.
行ってくる。
It felt like it took an eternity for him to get there. Santa and Lotus followed, timid and nervous as a pair of children. Eventually, they reached the divider. They looked at one another and nodded slowly. Junpei put his hands on the divider and peered around the corner. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. He felt his heart collapse in his chest like an empty cigarette carton, and time froze. He knew in that instant that he would take the image before him to the grave. What was left of the body sat in a sea of blood. Chunks of flesh torn from the body sat in the blood like tiny islands in a great red sea. A vast ragged hole had been torn in his torso, and what remained of his intestines spilled out of it like fresh spaghetti. Ew! Why would you say it like that? Smaller chunks of meat had splattered against the wall and became stuck there as they dried. Globules of yellowish fat had left trails like tiny slugs as gravity pulled them down the wall, even as they dried to it. Like an empty cigarette carton? Wait, what? Santa's voice was strained. Junpei suspected he was holding down some vomit of his own.
バングルの起爆送信機が作動して体内の小型爆弾が炸裂したんだろう。
It looked as though the explosion had been quite powerful.
全身めちゃくちゃだ。
開放骨折を起こしてるな。
His legs were both bent in an odd, unnatural way, and his left arm had split open, exposing the painfully white bone of his ulna? Ulna? His bracelet lay next to him. It seemed to have hit the wall hard enough to have shattered the display, which lay on the ground in pieces.
それよりひどいのは顔。
ひどいありさまだ。
Half of his head simply collapsed. The blood coating almost made it look like raw pizza dough covered in tomato sauce. His clothes, too, were covered in blood. The burgundy tie, the white shirt, the jacket with the yellow piping, and the grey slacks. The clothes, though. Okay, was that voiced or no? Game? They were all familiar to Junpei.
間違いないわ。ニルスね。
Lotus's voice was unnaturally deep and strained, and Junpei heard a catch in her throat. A squeal of tortured metal made Junpei's teeth curl. It sounded like the noise a ghost would make. No matter how many times he heard it, he never got used to it. Every time it put him on edge. It didn't help that there was a girl nearby who looked far more like a ghost than a living human should. It was Clover. She sat on the edge of the bed, her head drooping listlessly onto her chest. Her eyes were blank and stared across the room at nothing. Her breathing was slow and mechanical. Aside from the rise and fall of her chest, she didn't move. Junpei felt as if even a nudge might cause her to shatter into 1,000 pieces.
おそらくニルスは殺されたんだろう。あの9番の男が死んだ時と同じような状況に追い込まれてな。
Seven lowered his voice, likely in an effort to keep Clover from hearing what he had to say. There were 4 other people in the room with Junpei and Seven. Ace, Santa, June, and Lotus. Seven looked at each one of them in turn and
やっ
continued.
た方法は実に単純明快だ。簡単に説明することができる。まず犯人たちはニルスと共にレッドで認証を行い3の扉を開いた。で、その奥へとニルスだけをぶち込んだんだ。その9秒後、自動的に扉が閉鎖。孤立したニルスになす術はない。それでも奴は諦めなかった。無駄だとは知りながらもレッドを求めてシャワー室へと飛び込んでいった。藁にもすがる思いでな。だが掴んだ藁は所詮は藁だ。デッドで認証を行ってもバングルの起爆タイマーが停止するわけはなかった。と 止めるにはレッドで認証を受けた者全員がデッドに触れなければならない。そしてゲートをくぐってから81秒が経過。その結果が。
なるほど。だから犯人たちなんだな。ナンバリングドアを開くにはニルスを含めて3人以上は必要だ。犯人1人とニルスだけでは扉は絶対に開けない。
そういうことだ。要するに単独犯じゃなくて複数犯ってことになる。
Junpei crossed his arms and
念
grunted.
のため確認しておきたい。もしも今の推理が正しいとするならニルスが殺されたのはいつだろう。
全員で分かれてレッドの基盤を探してた時だろうな。ニルスがいなくなってるのに気づいたのはその後のことだ。
ってことは全員のアリバイがなかったことになるよな。
Duh.
みんなそれぞれ自分の担当箇所に分かれて基盤を探してたわけで。
だね。
ちょっと待ってください。二人ともどうかしてますよ。
June seemed shocked.
なんだか当たり前みたいに平然って、それって私たちの中に犯人がいるってことでしょ。
Or several.
ああ、しかも一人だけじゃない。二人以上は確実にいることになる。
よさないかセブン。こんなところで猜疑心を煽ってどうする。
ゼロの思うつぼ。
そうとも。これは奴の仕掛けてきたゲームなんだぞ。ゲームであるからには必ず勝者と敗者が生まれる。9の扉に入れた者が勝者、あぶれた者が敗者だ。奴はその勝敗を我々に競わせようとしてるんだ。
つまり意図的に内部分裂を起こさせようと。
そういうことだ。だからこそ我々は疑心暗鬼に陥ってはならないんだ。互いを信頼し結束を固めなければならない。そうしなければゼロの思惑通りになってしまうからね。
ってことはニルスを殺したのも？
ああ、おそらくゼロだろう。というかだな、そもそもまず真っ先に疑うべきなのはゼロだろう。奴はこのゲームの首謀者なんだぞ。我々を拉致してきたのもゼロだ。そいつがニルスを殺したと考える方が自然じゃないかね。
It doesn't seem reasonable for someone who orchestrated something big like this and who's clearly adhered to the rules so far to suddenly go and kill just one specific member of the team, especially someone he gave an extra card to in the very beginning. But yeah, sure, obviously, let us distrust the big mastermind. It's fair, it's fair. How do you know that the big mastermind would actually adhere to the rules? But why go through the trouble of setting up a big game like this and then go, oh, you know, actually I can just kill whichever one of you that I like, whenever I'd like. So, Junpei hadn't really considered that.
もしもニルスを殺したのがゼロだとするなら、ゼロはこの船の中にいることになるが。
Junpei was still on the ship with them. Of course. Of course. Of course he was. That was obvious.
そうだよな。
Zero was somewhere on the ship, but Junpei had no idea where. Junpei mumbled to himself, lost in thought.
それにしてもゼロのやつ、一体どこに隠れてんのかな。
Suddenly everyone went very quiet. The silence was cold and clammy, and Junpei could feel it crawling across his back and around his throat. Again, he heard the ghosting moaning noise. And moments later, a person who looked more ghost than human appeared. It was Clover. She looked at the floor as she spoke, and her voice was a cold monotone. You think?
多分ゼロはこの
You think Zero is one of us? Every human body in the room froze. The only sound was the muffled rustling of breath. I started from face to face. One of those faces was the face of the jailer. But who? Is he one of them? It's possible.
確かにそうかもしれないな。四つ葉の言った通り、この中にゼロがいるのかも。
何を言ってるんですか、純平くん。
Words, mostly.
さっきの一宮さんの話聞いてなかったんですか？
ああ、そうだ。むやみに疑い合うのはやめようとあれほど。
It's not for no reason, though.
むやみ？むやみなんかじゃないさ。
何なんだその根拠ってのは。
バングルだよ。
He held out his
ど
left
うして
arm.
体内にある小型爆弾はバングルと連動してるんだ。ゼロはどこかで俺たちの行動を監視してるんじゃなかったのか。だったらルール違反を犯した場合は遠隔操作か何かで爆発すれば済むことだろう。その方が確実だし手間もかからない。なのになんでバングルの送信機を介して爆発するような仕組みになってるんだよ。
確かにそれもそうだな。
それだけじゃないぜ。これはノナリーゲームの全てについて言えることだ。船内にある数々の仕掛けは全部自動的に機能するようになってる。つまりゼロ何もかもが勝手に進行するようになってるってことだ。なぜだ？どうしてゼロはそんなめんどくさい仕掛けを施したんだ？
Jubei let the question hang in the air and looked at the others. It was Santa who
ゼ
answered.
ロは俺たちの中に紛れ込んでいる。だとすると逐一行動を監視したり遠隔操作で何かを動かしたりするのは難しい。だから船内の仕掛けは全て自動的に動くようにしておかなければならなかった。そういうことだな。
Yes.
そうだ。
Jubei nodded.
セブン、確かお前はさっきニルス殺しの犯人は俺たちの中にいるみたいなことを言ってたよな。
ああ、言ったな。
次は一宮、あんたに聞きたい。あんたは確かゼロこそがニルス殺しの犯人だってそう思ってるんだったよな。
ああ、その通り。それしか考えられないだろ。
じゃあこの2つの主張を合わせてみると連立方程式みたいなもんだ。解くとこうなるだろう。
I'm hoping to actually like get to the end of this whole conversation to end for tonight.
ニルス殺しの犯人、イコールゼロイコール俺たちの中にいる。要するにセブンと一宮の言ってることは矛盾せずに共存できるってことだ。ゼロがこの中にいるとするならな。
No one spoke. The faces were grim, but Junpei wasn't sure if they believed him or not. Finally, Lotus spoke up.
で動機は何なのよ。
動機？
そう大事なことでしょ。どうしてゼロは私たちの中に紛れ込む必要があったのか。
それはその
Junpei choked. He hadn't thought of that, and he had to be honest with himself. He had no idea.
わからない。
Lotus sighed.
説得力が大幅にダウンね。
つまり状況証拠だけってことか。
それだけじゃなんともな。
Junpei was painfully aware of their eyes on him and their disapproval. He tried to find something else, anything else to look at. Then, in that horrible silence, they heard a bell begin to ring. It was the clock at the central staircase.
あの時計の鐘の音だな。
タイムリミットまであと3時間ね。
とにかく今は動くしかあるまい。セブン、四つ葉、純平君、今はそれよりもお互いを信じることの方がはるかに大事だ。 そうだろ
それは、そうだが。
Junpei couldn't bring himself to respond. He swallowed the words he wanted to say and sighed. Seven and Clover remained similarly silent. Their eyes were looking at something somewhere else, very far
う。
away.
さあ、時間がない。行こ
On the entire game, we don't know anything about this whole thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, damn. I just pointed out one possibility. I don't have all the answers. Ace's words put their feet to moving. They all knew where they were
次
going.
に目指すべき場所は、水星か。
それじゃあまた後でね。
行こう、紫。
行ってきます。ここですね。
It sat bolted to the wall near the stairs that led to the casino and the kitchen between the two elevators.
ああ、この水星のマークが刻まれた。
そこにセブンさんに渡されたカードを使うんですね。
あ、
例のシャワー室を調べてる時にな、見つけたんだよ。
とかなんとか、セブンは言ってたな。まあ、とにかくやってみよう。
I completely forgot about that. I literally pointed out myself earlier, like, hey, you know, since we found keys and key cards in the other rooms, there should be something behind the 3 door, but I forgot that they actually do find something aside from a corpse. Junpei slipped the card through the reader. The light in the reader turned green and made a tiny electronic noise.
これでエレベーターが使えるようになった。
俊平くん、その二人きりですけど力を合わせて頑張りましょう。
なんだよ急に。
その選ばれたのが私と俊平くんだったのがちょっと嬉しくて。
選ばれたって言っても、一度いいデッキを調べているからってだけの理由だろ。
それでも俊平くんと一緒でよかったです。
まずはこのエレベーターが水の中に出ないか調べよう。
前と同じ手順ですね。
Yes. Would have been kind of funny if this one opens up and it's just full of water.
戻ってきたな。
やっぱり水滴一つ見当たらないですね。
それじゃ。
Once it had been checked for water, Junpei and June stepped into the elevator.
あれ、ボタンがみんな潰されてますね。
ああ、押せるのは C とボトムだけだ。
The fuck is
今
bottom?
私たちがいるのが C デッキですから、実質ボトムだけってことですか。
だな。じゃあ、押すぞ。
Junpei hit the bottom button. The door closed. Slowly, they began to move downward.
ここがボトムデッキか。
He stepped off and saw that the hallway to the right ended somewhere between 20 and 25 feet from them. The hallway in front of them was a dead end. Not a regular dead
あそ
end.
こにあるのは
And number 2!
これで8枚目だな。大階段の B デッキには2枚のナンバリングドアがあった。4の扉と5の扉だ。それから大病室には3枚のナンバリングドアが。そこにはそれぞれ3、7、8と記されていた。
あとは私たちが一緒に調べた E デッキに1枚と、ヤシロさんやサンタさんが調べた A デッキにも1枚あるようですね。E デッキの方には6、A デッキの方には1と書かれていたんですよね。
4537861, and now door 2 stood in front of
ってこと
Junpei.
は、
もしかしてこの次の扉は。
ああ、おそらくそういうことだろう。多分この次に見つける扉は。
Despite himself, Junpei felt excited. There was something about that excitement that frightened him as
ボ
well.
トムですね。
あ
なんだか浮かない顔してますね。
あ、いやー、このまますんなりいけばいいのになって思って。
Why would you say that out loud? That's only going to make it
そう
worse.
ですね。そう願いましょう。
さあ、戻ろう。
そうしましょうか。
He did his best to put it from his mind and headed back to C deck with June.
1,2,3,4。よし。7枚あるな。
Pieces of paper they'd folded up lay on the ground next to Junpei's legs. Everyone had written on paper pulled from Junpei's notebook in an effort to pull together a blind roll.
念のため確認するが、各自自分の呼び名と入りたい扉の番号は書いたな。
ちゃんと書いたわよ。
まさかこんなところまで来て投票とはな。
Well, I had to decide to vote that way.
言ったもん勝ちはずるい。公平性を保つためだ。だからってめんどくせえ提案しやがって。早くしろよ。言い出しっぺの順平くんよ。
I decided it wasn't fair to simply ask everyone at once. That would allow people to force others to go through certain doors.
分かったから落ち着けって。
And he had a plan. It wasn't a plan he wanted anyone catching wind of, however, so he did his best to act calm as he began to open and read the pieces of paper.
それじゃあ開票するぞ。まずは1枚目。一宮の希望は1の扉か。
ああ、その通り。理由も言った方がいいかね。
いや、時間がない。サクサク進めよう。
He opened the second one.
次はサンタだな。6の扉が希望と。
ああ、書いてある通りだ。
Junpei continued with the third, fourth, and fifth pieces of
4つ
paper.
は1。ヤシロは2。セブンも同じく2の扉を希望してるな。
ちょっと待ってくれる？私は嫌よ。そこの法年祭のご神体みたいな男と同じ扉に入るなんて。
The elephant man, he probably would say the same about you, though.
ダメだ。そんなことをいちいち許してたら、この投票の意味がなくなっちまうだろう。
でも
諦めろヤシロ。俺だっててめえみてえなロス教のババアとつるみたくねえんだからよ。
Exhibitionist grammar, damn. Damn.
露出狂じゃないわよ。ちゃんと服着てるじゃない。
ほとんど裸みてえなもんじゃねえか。
だったら何なのよ。それの何がいけないっていうの？
公衆道徳的にいけないに決まってんだろうが。ババアの干し柿みてえな体なんざ誰も見たくねえんだよ。
殺してやる。
Okay. Notice his hair flared out like the mane of an angry lion. She roared with a voice that shook the walls. With some difficulty, Ace managed to restrain her.
順平君、さあ今のうちに続きを。
ああ、わかった。
Junpei tore his eyes away and looked down at the sixth piece of paper. He opened it.
紫。6の扉を希望。
はい。特に理由はないんですけど、なんとなく。
All of the papers save Junpei's had been read. He did some quick calculations in his head.
ということは、1の扉の希望者は1宮と4つは。
This was a door on A deck near the central
2の
staircase.
扉の希望者はセブンとヤシロ。
We can go to door 1. With Ace and Clover, I literally said that earlier when we found out that there's door 1 up there. This was a door on the bottom deck and could be reached by taking the elevator to the bottom of the ship.
6の扉の希望者はサンタと紫。
There's also a door on E deck and could be reached by taking the elevator near the central staircase
というこ
down.
とになる。なら
It took him less than a second to run the numbers. He opened the seventh piece of paper and
さ
spoke.
てと、最後は俺だな。俺の希望は、
I want to go through door number 1.
俺の希望は1の扉だ。
Santa was
お
unconvinced.
いちょっと待てよ。お前なんかイカサマしてねえか。
Me cheating? No.
イカ様？
俺たちの希望を聞いてから扉の番号を変えたんじゃねえかって言ってんだ。
そんなことできるわけないだろう。この紙に書いてあるんだから。
見せてみよう。
構わないぜ。ほらよ。
Junpei shrugged and handed it to him. Santa examined it furiously. The others peered at it as well. As they did, Junpei quickly slipped a piece of paper he'd been hiding into his pocket. Although he'd never known it, Santa had been justified in his suspicions. Junpei had switched papers.
あらかじめ用意しておいた3枚の紙。
Photos 1, 2, and
そのうち
6.
の1枚は箱の中に入れ、
He put a small mark on it so that he would know which one was
最後
his.
に自分の紙が残るように気をつけながら回避
None
を
of the
進め
notes
ていた
behind the
わ。
door should be seen as arbitrary. You would think so. You would think so.
あとはみんなの投票の結果を見て、
Well,
選びたい扉の
they
鍵を
don't know
すり
what's
替える。
behind them, but also depending on the combinations. But you know what? I'll tell you this. I cannot calculate all of this as quickly as all of them do it. So in my mind, I'm just like, oh yeah, I want to go to a specific number for no reason aside from I want to see all endings. I have no idea. Like, I only calculated the one thing that was like, okay, yeah, wait, if we put Clover, Ace, and Junpei, it would work for door number 1. But I couldn't tell you what other combinations there are. I just did the one and I'm like, yeah, that one works.
選びたい扉が箱に入れておいた番号のものなら。どうだ？なんて書いてある？
Hi, Humpy, good evening. He fought the urge to smirk.
うまいことやったな。
Santa snorted and tossed the paper aside, frustrated.
さて、とりあえずこれで1の扉に入るメンバーは決まったことになるな。私と四つ葉と順平君だ。
The super powerful written script, very true. They don't even need to do any calculations. 1 plus 4 plus 5 is 10, and 1 plus 0 is 1.
問題は残りの2チームだが、
My thoughts on the early Switch 2 lineup? Humpy, you should have been here for the beginning of the stream, then you would know. No, my thoughts are I'm not going to get it when it releases because there's nothing on it immediately that would justify a full new console full price for me. The only game that was shown that I'm looking forward to is Professor Layton, and I'm just going to assume that level 5 is going to also bring that out on the normal Switch and not just the Switch 2. So that's enough for me, for now. You don't even have a Switch 1, which is also fair. I have a Switch 1 and I have too many games on it that I haven't actually gotten around to playing it. So that's my other reason. I already have so much stuff I should get around to doing before I buy another console.
俺と紫は6の扉を選んだ。
俺とヤシロは2の扉だ。
That doesn't work out.
困りましたね。どちらのチームも2人だけじゃナンバリングドアは開けないですし。
仕方ないわね。セブン、私たちが6の扉に乗り換えましょう。
3 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 is 24 and 2 plus 4 is 6.
なあ、俺は別に構わないぜ。
That's it. Yeah, that's fair. You're gonna go to Dokomi again, I'm assuming.
何も2の扉にこだわりがあったわけじゃねえしな。それに若い女がチームに加わりゃババアの濃度も薄まるってもんだ。
Without being worried. Oh. Now I have the Animal Crossing Switch. But mine's docked pretty much all the time anyway and connected, so I'm assuming once I take it out, it's probably not going to run very well either.
なあ、紫。
私はその
June was at a loss for words. Lotus was not.
あの黒豚め、今に見てなさい。
Eyes were the eyes of a woman prepared to kill. A shiver ran down Junpei's spine.
そもそもババアって。これだからデリカシーがない男は。
Seven Lotus' antagonism feels unmotivated. It's just... I don't understand why it's there. 1, Lotus doesn't look old at all. 2, if you're going to call someone with Lotus's design old, then you also have to call literally every single man in this thing, aside from Snake and Junpei and Santa, old as well. You can't tell me that 7 doesn't look old. Or Ace, for that matter. the 9th man as well. All of these would qualify as old. I do not understand why it's... Like, I understand, okay, 7, he doesn't get along with her. He doesn't like her from how she is acting. But why is it specifically the whole, you old thingy they went for? Why not just, okay, stop being such a stuck-up person. Stop looking down on us. Let's work together. No, it's just, I wouldn't want to work together with such an old lady. Doesn't even call her a lady. With such an old witch either. Like, okay, why?
絶対に許さないんだから。
うへえ、まだ言ってやがる。
Have a good night, Dumpy. I'm also gonna go soon. I just want to reach the next room. Even after they separated at the staircase, Lotus was still muttering angrily to herself.
じゃあな、紫。
純平君。
Circumstances dictated that Junpei and June would have to part ways again, but this time it didn't sting quite so
そんな
much.
顔するなって。ほら、セブンも言ってただろ。
9の扉を見つけるまで俺たちが離れ離れになることはないんだ。一時的に分離したとしても必ずどこかで合流するようになったる。そうしないと誰も9の扉を開けなくなっちまうからな。そういう風にできてんだよ、このノナリーゲームってやつは。
Seven's words took a weight over Junpei's shoulders and felt much better.
だから大丈夫だ。また後でな。
はい。必ず、また後で。
Lingering uneasy remained, but they went their separate directions without much trouble. Junpei and Clover headed toward A deck.
A deck だ。左手の扉だったよな。
確かそのはずだ。
それじゃ、開けるぞ。
It opened, and they walked through.
サンタとヤシロが言ってた通りだな。
At the end of the hallway sat a door with a large red one upon
ナ
it.
ンバリングドアだ。
To the left of it, bolted to the wall, was the
レ
red.
ッドもあるな。では私から先に行かせてもらおう。
Ace went first and waved his wrist over the scanner panel.
さあ、二人とも。
Junpei was next. Finally, listlessly, Clover lifted her arm. She leaned toward the scanner panel. So the stairs clicked to life, shining brightly. Ace took hold of the
さ
lever.
て、
He took a deep breath and turned to Junpei and Clover.
準備はいいか。行くぞ。
ああ。いい。
Clover said nothing. She nodded, little more than a lethargic twitch of that I need to stop, I can't talk
よし、
anymore.
それじゃあ行こう。3、2、
2、1.
開いた。急げ。
No, actually. That's the perfect point. Because as soon as they get in there, they're going to have the little, okay, we need to find the dead, and then we need to actually get out of the house. Get out of the house? Get out of the room. So, we'll take that chance. Stop right there before I lose my voice. Thank you for the pad. Good night. Thank you. Good night. Casually even wanted that time until next stream. Yeah. Don't worry. They have 81 seconds. Why did the game screen go away? Okay, there we go. They have 81 seconds. They can make it. They can wait. Someone that knows when to take his shirt off. Maybe tomorrow. I'm hoping to continue Infinite Wealth tomorrow, actually. But yeah, that is going to be it for tonight. Thank you so much for coming by. I'm going to send you guys over to Civil, who's doing some hand cam Lego building, which is a fun idea, and also specifically because I want to ask her if she has managed to finish 999, because she started playing it in March. I assume she's not finished the game, but I would like to go over there and say hello. thank you for the stream. No, thank you for coming by. Thank you for the raid earlier as well. Have a good night for now. I'll see you guys soon. And bye bye. Bye bye bye.